I won't beat around the bush. Might as well get right to it. The instructions for the successful defense of the Tartarus Mall are sure and simple. First things first, Tartarus ain't actually the mall's name. That's just what I call the place on account of the store I have to guard. I won't tell you the mall's proper name for security reasons, but yeah, so one of the stores in the mall is called Tartarus, and this store is perpetually closed. I've never seen it open. A metal sheet lives across its door, and its window displays are always empty, boarded up even. The instructions, to put them simply, are as follows. Number 1, watch Tartarus. Number 2, don't let anyone in. And number 3, don't let anyone out. I work the shift from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., Monday to Friday. Gets pretty damn boring. The mall closes at 9, the last staff are out by 9:20, and then it's just me. Just myself. A gruff and relatively miserable middle-aged man, all alone in this mall. There's 5 other men like me. Or hell, some could be women, I guess. 2 of them do the weekend, I hear. The other 2 do weekdays. One works from 4 a.m. to 12 noon, and the other from noon to 8 p.m. We're not supposed to meet each other. That being said, I'm pretty sure I bumped into the guy who works the noon to 8 p.m. shift once. He just had this look about him. 20 or years younger than myself, I should think. Hard to tell since he was wearing a mask, but he'd seen some shit, you can see it in their eyes. He nodded at me as I passed him by, and seemed to realize he was running late. Could have just been a stranger, I guess. Ex-military or something. But I don't know, I just had a feeling. I'm working right now, in fact. It's a typical dead and quiet night. The moon is out, and its light shines through the purple-tinted glass of the roof, washing the vast open plan of the mall in a pleasant, dreamlike violence. I glance over to Tartarus. The metal sheet door sits resolutely in place. The windows are dark and dead. You can hear stuff coming through sometimes, whispers and mutterings. On some nights, the metal rattles. Those nights ain't fun. I take a sip of my coffee and lean back in my chair. I say my chair. It's one of the mall's massage chairs. It isn't turned on, but it's still comfy. As I try to relax, the music in one of my headphones starts cutting in and out. I grumble in frustration and pluck the bud from my ear to fiddle with it. Damn things. I need new ones, really. But I wouldn't have the faintest idea on what to look for. My daughter got me these 8 years ago. I think it was. They might have been good then, but they ain't much good now. They've held out pretty well this whole time, though, so that's something, I guess. Still, frustrating. I'm listening to Jolene tonight. Or, well, trying to. My employers are secretive people. I was scouted for this position, and you know what? It actually pays pretty well. I've been doing this stint for 5 years now, and only felt the need to ask for a pay raise once in all that time. And they gave it to me. No question. I suppose I could ask for another, but hey, I don't want to push my luck. The money is decent. And for what? Watching a damn closed-up store and an empty mall keep some secrets, and occasionally do what needs to be done. Don't let anyone in. Don't let anyone out. I take a sip of my coffee. I think back to my early days, back to when my daughter was still just a young kid. I was far more curious about it all back then. Hell, who wouldn't be? I glance over to the metal door of Tartarus. Towards the end of my very first week, I'd already dislodged that thing. It ain't hard if you've got a bit of strength, do you? Raise it up, and then unlock the barred door behind. Easy enough if you have the key, and then you just stroll right in. I don't know what kind of a store Tartarus might once have been. I remember looking around, the walls were painted red and black and gray, and were peeling. Scruffs and scratch marks streaked the carpets. The place was pretty empty, although not entirely so. There's a dusty old right-angled counter in the middle, and I remember seeing a clear plastic spray bottle half filled atop this counter. No cash register, no items or racks or shelves. Just this one bottle, a small rag, and a marker pen right beside it. The bottle was labeled bleach. In the far corners of the store, which, by the way, appeared ever so slightly further and wider than one would expect, in these far corners were a collection of eerie mannequins, all faceless, leaned and stacked against each other in various sizes, all faceless, all stripped of clothing. Some of the mannequins had stuff written across their faces. I remember walking up to them, walking past and taking a closer look. Upon the closest was written Jadener, curious. On the next was written Charler. And then on the third, a little further along, Zez. I couldn't make sense of it back then. I remember puzzling over the names. I counted 5 different initials in total, our SNT and SL. There were 7 mannequins with names attached to R, for attached to S, 2 marked with an N, 2 marked with a T, and only a single mannequin labeled with an SL. One of these mannequins, a male figure labeled with a T, had been crossed through with a large black X, and 5 of them were entirely blank. I found a storeroom near the back filled with dozens more. What the hell is this place? And, these mannequins weren't even the weirdest thing about the abandoned store. The weirdest thing by far was hidden behind the counter, right in the center of the room. A singular, deep, dark hole right there in the middle of the floor. Damn. I murmured aloud, peering cautiously down. The hole in the ground reminded me of one of those kids' slides, the types you see in McDonald's funhouses and ball pit playpens. Old and dusty and grimy, hard plastic. It went down about 6 or 7 feet into the darkness, and then rounded a gentle corner. And there was something else, too. Around the hole, around the tunnel's entrance, there's this general creeping sense of unease. It's tough to explain. There's this sense that the floor upon which you walk is fragile, far more fragile than you give it credit for. That everything is more fragile than you give it credit for, in fact. It's a cold and clammy sensation, and it gets right under your skin. You can hear the whispering more clearly when around a hole, too, if you stay there long enough. In the early days, I'd stick around that creepy tunnel for ages, despite the unease. The allure of that mystery was too great, almost an hour at a time. I even went down into the tunnel, too, despite my caution. Poked around, had a good look to see where it led. I quickly stopped doing that. I don't go into Tartarus anymore. Not unless I have to. Not unless I really have to go down into that tunnel. But thankfully, such an occasion is rare. I shiver. I don't feel like talking about that right now. I take another sip of coffee, sighing with frustration as my right earbuds cut out yet again. Damn thing. I take it out to fiddle with it some more, and in doing so my ear picks up the sound of a pattering in the distance. My senses are primed at once. I reach into my pocket and pause the music. I stand from the chair, set down my coffee, and determine from which direction the noise is coming from. The pattering rises into a murmur, and before long I hear the laughter and muffled speech of what sounds like a group of teenagers. Great. Haven't had to deal with something like this for a while. I check my watch. 1 a.m. I wonder what the cause could be this time. A break-in, perhaps? Or maybe just a group of dumbass who hid away in some store and waited for the mall to close. Maybe they're making some kind of YouTube video. That's what the last group were doing. When was that? August? September? I shake my head with a grumble. Idiots, I mutter. Deciding on tonight's approach and folding my arms, waiting for the group to round the corner at the far side of the mall's open plan. Their laughter becomes louder and louder, growing more obnoxious with each step. They round the corner and my suspicions are confirmed. 5 teenagers, all washed in that subtle purple light. I'm standing so still that it takes a second for them to spot me. Once they do, however, their laughter cuts out at once, and the pattering ceases as they come to an awkward and sudden stop. I let the moment hang in the air, then I break it with a simple, "You kids shouldn't be in here. Get the hell out before I call the police." The one in the front of the procession opens his mouth to say something, and glances from me to Tartarus and then back. I narrow my eyes. Interesting and troubling. I'm really hoping these dumb kids aren't here to see Tartarus, though none of them have their phones out. Doesn't look like they're filming any kind of video. What are you doing here? The kid at the front asks. He's got some stubble around his chin and an oversized white sweater. I can sense the general anxiety of the group. But this guy seems bolder than the others. What the hell kind of question is that? I work here. Get out. Don't make me ask you again. You're not wearing any kind of uniform. And what kind of security guard hangs out right in the middle of the mall? Sweater takes a step forward and again glances from me to Tartarus, less subtly this time. Dude, no way. Was Rex telling the truth? One of the girls of the group mutters to the boy beside her. She looks between me and the accursed store. You're trespassing, I reiterate, raising my voice. Just go, for God's sake. Leave by whatever way you came in, and leave me to listen to my crappy music. The group's other girl, one of the sweaters left, looks up at me. Why would you want to listen to crappy music? She asks. I push some air out through my nose. Well, it's not the music so much as the headphones. Look, that's really not important. I falter, squinting. Hey, wait a second. Don't I know you? You're one of Abby's friends, right? Abby is my daughter. The girl's eyes widen, and she takes a step back. Yeah, I know you. For God's sake, I'm Abby's father. You're Maddie. Riley. Something like that. Avery. She squeaks. Yeah, that's it. Look, I remember you. You're a good kid. I'm sure you all are. So just get out of here. This is your final warning. What about Tartarus? Sweater asked me. I take another step towards the group. What about it? Well, what's in there? Nothing's in there. That's a lie, chimes in one of the others. A boy to Sweaters, right? Long blonde hair over his fringe. There's stuff in there. We know there is. I take another step towards them. Kids these days. So reckless. Back when I was young, if I'd seen someone like me in a place like this, at a time like this, I would have ran for my damn life, not engaged in chit-chat. I don't know who you've been talking to, I reply through gritted teeth, but I can assure you that there is nothing of interest to you or to anyone in that empty-ass old closed-down store. So you won't mind if we take a look around it, then? Sweater replies, and he draws from his pocket my key. I am actually taken by surprise. It glints violet in the light. But it's my key, all right. No doubt about that. The long, sharp, and serrated silver key to Tartarus. I can see the store's logo or symbol or whatever emblazoned across the handle in black. How the... You dropped it back there in the hallway, Sweater replies. Careless, really? There's a tense pause. Now Sweater says, and the group disperses. Avery goes with Fringe and a pair, but the others all split up and run their separate ways. Oh, for God's sake, I say, taking off after him. How could I be so careless? Drop my key. But that's impossible. I'm always so careful. Never in all my years have I once lost that key. I watch as Sweater tosses something shiny and silver to the group's other girl before she sprints down an adjacent hallway past Claire's and Starbucks. I am taken by the coordination and pre-planning of this group. Not because Sweater actually passed her the key, but because he pretended to. It was a quick motion, but I caught it. It was just a coin. The actual key was hurriedly and subtly passed to Fringe before they parted ways. I saw the hands connect. These guys are something else, I mutter as I change directions and head off after the duo. God, Sage. Even if I get rid of them tonight, they'll probably be back. I might have to bring out the big guns to scare these ones away. I race past the mall fountain, a white and marble thing with a life-sized horse carved as its central feature. It doesn't take me long to catch up to him. I may be a little old, but I'm sprintier than I look. Not so fast, I call out, reaching out and grabbing the scruff of Fringe's jacket. He lets out a yelp and skids. Avery carries on a little farther before stopping herself to look back at us. She puts her hands to her mouth. Wait, Liam. Liam, I snarl, looking down into the kid's face as I catch my breath. You made a mistake here today, kid. Hand over that damn key, and I'll think carefully about what it is that I'll tell your parents. If he's friends with Avery, then he probably goes to my daughter's school, I thought. And if that's the case, it shouldn't be too hard to work out who he is. I can't give you it. He stutters. I'm not so confident now. Please? Jesus, have a little backbone. Have some self-respect, kid. Now give it over before you make me take it from you. I've given you guys enough chances already. And I am really starting to lose my patience. I can't give it to you because it's not mine to give. It's mine. No, sir. It isn't. It's Rex's. I paused. Rex? Who the hell's Rex? What are you talking about? It's Bryce's brothers. Bryce? You know, the guy in the white sweater. Don't lie to me, kid. I know a Tartarus key when I see one. And then it hits me. A cold feeling spreads out from my stomach, and I actually think to check my own pocket, the pocket I keep the key in. And I realize that I've been duped. My key is right there in my pocket. It was always there. I draw it out, and it sparkles in the light. Silver, with a black logo of Tartarus emblazoned upon it. Of course, I didn't drop my key. I would never do such a thing. Which means, you have your own key to Tartarus. My voice has dropped, and the entire atmosphere has changed. I think perhaps that Liam and Avery can sense this. I release Liam from my grip, and he stumbles away. Avery goes to him, and they look up at me as I try not to panic. I'm starting to get quite scared now. Where did you get the key? I ask them. Then louder, where did you get it? I told you, Bryce's brother. I'm sorry. We thought there might be someone guarding the store. Rex was drunk the other night. He's always drunk, and he told us, what? What did he tell you? He told us about Tartarus. Shit, is Rex one of the guards? Could he even be the guy I saw that one time in the mall? Sweat begins to bud on the back of my neck. Very slowly, very calmly, I say to them, just give me the key. Liam glances at Avery, and she checks her watch with a glance. Bryce never gave me the key. Liam says in a quiet voice, hey, he kept it the whole time. He turns out his jacket pockets, and they are empty. I'm able to see its outline if it were in his jeans. I put my hands on my head. Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. I hear the sound of the metal sheet door of Tartarus being raised in the mall down the corridor behind me, and I shoot a look back into the purple glow. He'll have joined up with the others by now, Liam says. Others? There's a whole group of them going down, like 7 or so, I think. I said I'd be part of a distraction. I turn to stare at Avery. She must see something in my eyes because she recoils. Avery, is Abby with you? My daughter, Abby Jones. Come on, I know you know her. You guys are friends. She pauses. No, she isn't with us. I'm not convinced. I can hear the running of quick footsteps in the distance. Avery. I grab her by the shoulders, and she goes deathly pale. You won't get in trouble, neither will she. I get it if you're trying to cover for your friend, but you have to tell me, is Abby a part of this group? No. I said no. She stumbles over her words. We asked her if she wanted to come, and she said it was stupid. Well, at least one of you has some damn sense, I retort, releasing her. I'm not convinced, however. I'm really not convinced. I take off back down the corridor, leaving the 2 quaking kids behind. Go home. I shout at them, racing through the midnight mall. I stumble to a stop by my massage chair, staring in horror at the entrance to Tartarus. The metal sheet that covers the door is not currently covering the entire door. It's clearly been lifted and dropped back down, and has not settled properly into place. I can hear from here that the door behind it is open. Shit, I swear. And curse my way to the door and haul the metal sheet up with a grunt pushing into the store itself. I am instantly struck with a wave of unease. Handprints and shoe prints are marked all over the dusty countertop in front of me. I glance to my right as I stride over. The nearest mannequin rests awkwardly against the wall, a faceless man, with his arm raised in a sad, silent wave. Crossed out, it says Durar, and then Darren. Dashar is written across the mannequin's face in black marker. I swallow with a dry throat. Could that be your writing, Rex? I try not to think about it. I'm not supposed to know. I jump the counter and look down into the dark, hard plastic of the tunnel on the floor. I run my hands through my gray-flecked hair and look around. The mannequins watch silently, judging. I swear some more. I slam a fist down onto the counter. I think over the instructions. Watch Tartarus. Don't let anyone in. And number 3, Don't let anyone out. I also think about whether or not my daughter might be amongst this group of young idiots. How close she was to the people who have just leapt so foolishly down into the dark. I consider what I would want if another parent saw my Abby head down into such a dangerous place. And after a moment, I sigh and return to the front door of the store, locking it closed behind me, and then heading back to the hole behind the counter. I don't get paid enough for this shit, I mutter, as I prepare to follow on down. The tunnel in the ground seemed to know I intended to enter. The whispering coming from the depths increases, becoming a fog-like shivering and rattling around the back of my head. I sit myself down on the tunnel's edge, and with one last deep breath, I push myself off the side and drop down into the dark. The hard plastic of the tunnel carries me down and around the corner like a slide. Down it goes, turning this way and that, before steadily leveling out. I grunt and readjust myself as I slow to a stop. The tunnel is rather claustrophobic, but it's fine. I've been down here before. I have to turn onto my front on my hands and knees. I do so and crawl forwards for about 2 minutes or so before rounding one last corner. Ahead of me at the end of the tunnel is a narrow pinprick of pale purple light, same shade of the light in the mall upstairs. I mutter to myself, pushing down the fear, and continue my crawling, knees aching as I do so. You gotta be more careful, Matthew. I think to myself, chiding myself for being so careless. Can't let this sort of thing happen again. This was too many kids by far. The purple light at the end of the tunnel grows a little brighter. The view into the world beyond becomes clear. I can't hear any of the teenagers, I realize, which is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. My heart is pounding. I'm not supposed to be down here. No one is supposed to be down here. And yet, here we are. Pull yourself together, I think. Let's get this over with. Abby might be down here. Despite what Avery said, she might still be down here with her friends. And I clamber out from the tunnel's exit and into the place that lies beyond and beneath. I stand in a room with blue-green peeling walls, scuffed floors. It's kind of like the Tartarus store, only with a different color scheme. And there are no mannequins, no creepy-ass mannequins with names and initials written all over their faces. The windows ahead are not boarded up. And there's no metal sheet over the door that leads out. I glance behind me. The tunnel does not go down into the floor, of course. It instead carries on in a straight line and disappears through the back wall. I return my gaze to the room's front door and stride towards it, heading out into the plain beyond. Goosebumps shiver up my skin as I step through the door and look around, reminding myself of the layout. I stand in a mirror reflection of the mall upstairs. It changes and warps the further from the tunnel's exit you go, but here for now I stand more or less in the center of a copy of the mall. A copy with a few key differences, of course. As always, there's that faint, almost imperceptible music. Orchestral. Sad, but beautiful. You have to strain to hear it, but it's there. It's always there. Sounds like it's always on the verge of a crescendo that never comes. My surroundings and I are bathed in that same purplish light, but there's no moon on this side. No stars are visible through the glass above. There's only pitch black. It isn't clear where the light comes from exactly. It just seems to hang in the air. I turn around. The Tartarus store stands behind me, though it isn't called Tartarus on this side. It's called Gaia. And whilst the windows are empty and free from displays of any kind, they're not boarded up. There was no metal sheet I had to lift to get out. The door is unlocked and easily accessible. Whilst at first glance the surrounding stores seem familiar and plain, close inspection of each reveals that they are anything but. There's no English used down here. The letters might appear to be recognizable if you skim your eyes past them, but the storefronts are covered in no native language of mine. It's nothing but strange symbols and unusual lines and shapes. My footsteps echo as I walk the length of the mall's central hall, closer to the fountain and the statue upon it. It's not a horse on this side. It's an enormous coiled snake, white marble, lidless, staring eyes. And sitting atop it, I jump in shock and swear to myself under my breath. He's often lurking around down here, but he's never in the same place. And he's a frightful son of a bitch too, to put it lightly. Hello. Minus comes the voice of the figure sat upon the snake's head like a hiss, almost. The voice is smooth yet unsettling. Good evening, Typhon. I reply steadily, composing myself and looking up at him. You're looking handsome tonight. Typhon has tonight chosen the form of myself. Sitting up on the top of the snake is a copy of me, though, as with a mall, the copy is twisted. Typhon's copy of me is pure white, and when I say that, I mean everything. The hair, the skin, the clothes, all a mist-like, ghostly white, all except for the eyes. There's no color in the eyes, just void black. Typhon grins and flickers out his tongue like a snake's. He cocks his head at me. You've made a tragic mistake tonight, haven't you, Minus? Typhon doesn't know my name. It's safer that way, and I intend to keep it as such. He knows that it begins with an M, however, and he chooses to refer to me as Minus. A mistake, sure. I don't intend for it to be tragic, though. We all make mistakes, I say. Some more than others, Typhon replies, licking his teeth. He does not blink. There is a pause. Well, I'd best be looking for them then, I say, doing my best to sound casual. I imagine you saw where they all went. I did. I saw where they went. And I don't suppose you're going to tell me, are you? When did I become so predictable? Typhon replies with a stretched white grin. All right, well, I'll be seeing you then, Typhon. I start walking around the statue of the snake on its fountain. I watch in my peripheral vision as Typhon creeps like a lizard across the statue's head. Have you thought some more about the offer I made you, Minus? Typhon asks, his voice dropping and the hiss in his throat becoming more prominent. It will save you a great deal of trouble a little further down the line. I doubt that. I reply, looking directly ahead and leaving the statue of the snake behind me. And, as before, my answer is no. Well, the offer stands. I do hope you change your mind. I hear the sound of Typhon scuttling down the marble of the statue. I shoot a quick glance over my shoulder, but he's already vanished. And when I'm sure he's gone, I breathe just a little easier. It may not seem like it, but Typhon scares me more than most down here. He was in a good mood tonight. I continue on along my way, aware that the clock is ticking, ears straining for any hint of the group, listening intently for any clattering, speaking, or screaming to accompany that faint orchestral music. I think hard. The kid in the oversized white sweater, the ringleader of this little group. What was it that the duo upstairs had said his name was? Bryce. And Bryce's older brother is a guy named Rex, a nighttime alcoholic by their accounts, and the owner of the key Bryce used to get them all down here. This troubles me greatly. Ignorance is bliss. I know more now than I'd wanted to. So Rex is likely one of my mysterious colleagues, another of the shift workers, the tragic guardians of Tartarus. It fits, given the existence of the R initials scrawled across many of the mannequins upstairs, and this colleague of mine has supposedly been careless with his key. Stupid bastard, I mutter. Though my heart goes out to him, and now his brother is down here in the depths, maybe with Abby. I increase my pace. If I'd heard stories about this place from an older brother through drunk ramblings, I guess where would I want to go first if I was some stupid kid? A couple of potential answers come to mind, and I settle on one, adjusting my course and heading to the right. I pass beneath the silent, watchful gaze of the eerie storefronts on either side. The color schemes, all washed in violet, of course, seem vaguely familiar in one's peripheral vision, but when you turn to look directly at them, well, as I said, they ain't anything recognizable, dreamlike, and nonsensical. I can hear voices ahead, male and female kid voices. It's them, all right. I started jogging. Around the next corner. In the mall upstairs, the actual mall, I guess, this right here would be one of the mall's exits. The corridor leads to a large bookstore, and if you walk right through the center, then you lead into one of the parking lots. You can see the exit from the store's entrance. Down here, however, beneath Tartarus, the bookstore does not lead to an exit. It only leads into more corridors of the mall. There are no windows. There are glass panes in the walls, sure, but they only give you a view back into the mall, not to the outside. The layout starts getting weirder from here, more labyrinth-like. In the center of the bookstore is another feature that is missing in the one upstairs, the giant carved titan. It cowers with one hand above its monstrous face, snarled in rage and fear. As with the snake, and I suppose with the horse, it appears to be made of white marble and is so huge that it takes up the bulk of the room's center. Even the escalators do not rise above the top of its head. The teenagers are here. There are 7 of them, as Liam and Avery had suggested there would be. There's Bryce, the oversized white sweater guy. There's the 2 from the initial group, a boy and a girl, and 4 new ones. I am relieved to see that Abby is not with them, though, and it appears that Avery may have told me the truth. It does concern me, though, what Bryce may have told Abby about this place, about Tartarus, and whether she would have believed any of it, and if she did, whether she connected any of it to myself. Upon my arrival, they all turned to me at once, high off of the energy of doing something you're not supposed to do. The feverish excitement of being in some place secretive and strange. None of them have any idea what sort of danger they're in. I can see it in their faces. None except for Bryce, maybe. I come to a stop and we regard each other, them and I. Do they know, kid? I ask him after a beat, careful not to use his name. Do they know the danger that you've put them all in tonight? I look them over. And don't use each other's names, I add. If you call each other by your real names down here, then you might not get back up. There are creatures down here that are always listening. What's he talking about, Bryce? One of the girls asked him, the excitement faltering in her demeanor. For God's sake, a bellow striding forwards. They back up against the base of the statue of the Titan. What did I just say? What the hell is wrong with teenagers? Why are y'all so damn thoughtless? I jab a finger into the girl's face. I appreciate that she's just a girl, and I'm a grown man, and the gesture might come across as quite frightening. But frankly, I don't particularly care. My priority is getting them all out of here. I said no names. No names. Do not use my name. If you happen to know it, do not use your friends' names, or else you might just get stuck down here forever. I grab Bryce's collar and swing him round, throwing him a little ways towards the bookstore's entrance, back towards the mall corridor, the way we came. You have put your friends in danger tonight, I tell him. Now you can think of a way to apologize to them as we head back to the entrance. Go to hell, old man. Bryce replies, snarling at me. Bryce, murmurs the girl behind me in shock. I spin around. But I have to tell you one more time. Leave her alone, Bryce shouts. We're not going with you. We all knew the risk coming down here, and we're not leaving until we've completed our mission. What the hell are you talking about, kid? I reply, exasperated. Why are you so intent on being down here? Just let me do my job. For God's sake, I'm getting really tired of this shit. Why are you so stubborn? This isn't the place for some dumb teenage urban exploring. We're not urban exploring, you miserable old son of a bitch, Bryce replies, folding his arms and fuming. My brother gets sicker every day, he says. I won't say his name, but you know who I mean. He's worked at the mall for so long. I don't know why he doesn't just quit already. The contract is 3 years, I murmur. He can quit at the end of every 3-year period if he wants to. Then why doesn't he? Bryce replies. Why does he put himself through it again and again? And what the hell even is this place? He puts his head in his arms and then throws them out wide. It's all real. It's all real. I thought it was drugs. I thought that my brother might be wasting away in some cracked den, but the more I researched, the more I stalked and watched. It's all real. Tartarus. He pauses, gathers himself. My friends came down here with me voluntarily. They trust me because I trust them. There's a murmur of determined agreement from behind me, from the little gathering. Bryce's eyes flash. And if it's all real, then that means Typhon is real, and it's his fault. It's all his fault. The air in the corners of my vision begins to shimmer slightly. A book on a nearby table stand starts to shake. Kid, I say. Carefully and quietly, I walk forwards and try to usher him onwards. It's time to go. He shoves me away, and his friends go to stand by his side, staring back at me, some anxiously, some defiantly. It's Typhon's fault that my brother's stuck in this job. I'm not sure how exactly, but I know it must be his fault, and I know he's evil. So we're gonna find him, and we're gonna kill him. I cannot help a panicked laugh escaping my throat, which seems to rile Bryce up even further. Kit, what are you saying? You think you'd be able to kill Typhon? You think you'd be able to? Even if it were possible. This is insane. Unless you want to put your disappearances on your brother's already burdened conscience. Then go. Go back to the entrance, all of you. A voice from above cuts through our clamor like ice. It is a disconnected fragment of a sentence, chilling in its lack of context. The voice is neither male nor female. Raspy and cold. Hissing in bouts of fiery spouts, the big one shouts, "I know what I'll see before even looking up." It's one of Typhon's playthings. We're steadily running out of time here. The eyes of the kids before me go wide with terror as they look up to the ceiling. I crane my neck unenthusiastically. Above us is the plaything in question. It has the rough form of a human, like Typhon, entirely white. Unlike Typhon, however, the thing has no eyes, no features on its head at all, actually. No face, no hair, no ears, just a blank canvas. It has one large mouth in the center of its chest. The mouth puckers and salivates as it creeps across the ceiling. It moves tentatively, but surely like a spider. It has no legs, but instead has 6 arms. 2 from where you would expect, 2 from the joints where its legs should be, and 2 from its hips. It is an abomination, and abominations are aplenty down here. What the hell is that? The boy to Bryce's right says, the boy from upstairs, adorned in a blue hoodie. That is our cue to leave. I reply, pushing them towards the entrance. Is this all of you? There's no one else. Just you 7? Most of them are stricken by the monster overhead, but 2 of them nod at me in response. Games kisses the creature. I would love a game. Love. A lone flower in the cold field. Its ramblings are lost to a general murmur as I quickly draw the door to the bookstore close behind us. Bryce gathers himself. He glares at me with a purpose and a determination well beyond his years. I came here for a reason. There are worse things than Typhon down here. My brother talks in his sleep. He mumbles when he's wasted. I know what needs to be done. I'm not afraid. And the kid pushes right past me. He slams open the bookstore door and races right through to the doors on the opposite side. Blue, Hoodie goes with him. One of the new girls goes as well. I've got your back, man. The boy shouts as he joins his comrade. We're with you. The girl cries. You idiots. You'll never see the daylight again. I roar after them, painfully conscious of Typhon's playfall, scuttling across the shelves above and after them. I swivel back to the rest of the group. My chest tightens. Fine. They want to disappear so badly. Then so be it. Screw them. Does anyone else want to die down here in the dark? I am met with stricken silence. Good. Then let's go. I grab 2 of them and start to run back through the mall, but I let them go after a few seconds. They're all running with me this time. Back through the corridors, back past the statue of the snake. I glance up, but Typhon himself has vanished. He could be anywhere now. We stumble towards the entrance to Gaia. All right, if you go. I pant, grimacing as I catch my breath and stretch out one of my legs. Back through the tunnel. One of the girls turns to me. She's from the original group that I saw upstairs. Curly black hair. What about B? She stops herself. What about the others? We can't just leave them. I clench my jaw. They made their choice. I ain't their babysitter. She grabs me by the sleeve. Please, sir, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry we made you come down here. And I'm sorry we all thought this was a good idea, but you can't just leave them. I look at the faces of the kids before me, hesitating. He'll never give up, says one of the boys. Never. If you don't go after him, then he's gonna die. Please. We're sorry. I blow some air through my nose. I ain't giving you my key. I tell him, and if I go to unlock the Tartarus door for you, then by the time I get back down here, it'll be too late. If I go after them, then who knows what'll happen. There's no telling when I'll be back. You might have to wait for the next person on shift to come and let you out. That's not so bad. One of the boys replies, bravely, bravely, or foolishly. How long would that be? I glance at my watch. 2.5 hours or so. Well, that's not so bad. Perhaps not. But, I pause. But what? The girl with curly hair replies. But whoever comes to let you out will be bound to the rules, think. Just like myself. Watch Tartarus. Don't let anyone in. Don't let anyone out. But there's no telling whether or not they'd actually let you out. I finish simply. We're not supposed to let anyone out, and the longer you stay in Tartarus in the realm below, well, the worse it gets. There is a long silence, and the kids look at each other. An unspoken agreement passes between them. Guys? Curly asks, and the others nod. She turns back to me. Please, we can wait. Just go after them. I consider their request, and then swear quietly. For God's sake. I point to the tunnel. Head up anyway. I don't want you creeping around down here. Head up to Tartarus and wait for me there. I start jogging away again, back through the mall. I turn a look over my shoulder, and I jab a finger at them. Hurry, and don't touch those damn mannequins. And as they scurry back to the tunnel, I let out a heavy sigh and carry onwards, through the purplish light of the world below. For better or for worse, God help me. Racing through the mall, I again reach the bookstore, the store that marks the edge of this branch of the complex. I put a hand on the glass pane of the window and look through, peering this way and that for any sign of Typhon's abomination. Where are you? You bastardi, mutter as I cautiously push through, taking the key from my pocket and brandishing it like a weapon. The door squeaks as I step inside, and it closes behind me. Step by step, I walk the length of the room round the statue of the agonized Titan and between the still and silent escalators. Nothing, though this is not necessarily a good sign. It likely followed on after the trio. Already across the room, I push through the next set of doors and out into the corridor beyond. To my left and right are more stores. Endless, bleary, and unidentifiable stores. I look down to my watch, and a sharp chord is played in the distant orchestra. I wonder if perhaps I'm wasting my time. These kids have brought this fate upon themselves, after all. I notice the trash can knock to the ground. There's no trash inside of it, of course, but a decent indicator of where they might have gone nonetheless. I take the corridor beyond it. To the left, the pattern on the floor is covered in subtle false shadows. It gives the impression that it rises and falls in unusual places, making it difficult to move in a straight line. I think about Rex, about the young man I saw that one time while starting my shift, about the look in his eyes. My fellow guardian. Bryce is his brother. He might be a little shit, but Rex is a watcher of Tartarus, damn it. A gatekeeper like myself. And I'm just not one to leave people behind if I can help it. The stores here stand at weird angles. A bench beside me is longer and thinner at one end than it is on the other. It looks normal when viewed from a certain angle, but from any other, it is strange and disturbing. The way ahead branches into 3 paths, and I come to a stop, catching my breath. Which way did they go? As I consider the options, a clear drop of liquid falls in front of my face, splatting quietly against the ground by my feet. I look up, and above me is an abomination, perched against the ceiling and staring right at me. I mean, it has no eyes, so it's technically not staring at me, but it might as well be. It certainly feels like it is. Its body is angled towards mine, and a low hiss reverberates out from its enormous mouth. Quietly, slowly, I edge away. You know where they went, don't you? A murmur. Don't get distracted by me now. You just keep going. I'll follow. Follow the yellow brick road. Bricks and stones may shake my bones. I don't want to go to the theater tomorrow. It rambles in a low, wet voice. It licks its teeth and creeps just a little bit closer to me. No, a worn, heart-pounding. Reaching into my pocket to grasp the key to Tartarus. Keep going on your way. Which way to the train station? He tells me we're running out of time. It creeps closer. This one is interesting, it would seem. These things can be tricky, though. There's a formula which has varied results. The nonsense they spout, they react to the things around them. But sometimes they provide glimpses into their former lives. You can use this against them. The theater. I begin, standing my ground. There's no room on the upper deck. We have to go to the lower floor. Lower? Lower the flag. The parade will end soon. The abomination says, as the sweat down my back starts to chill. Still, it creeps closer. Saliva drips to the ground with another wet splat. Lower. I repeat. Lower levels. Then, there are lower levels than this. Lower levels. Lower. The lower levels are worse. I say, there are worse levels below. The lower levels are worse. There are worse levels below. I brandish the key before me, and it glints violet in the light. The abomination pauses. There are worse levels below. It repeats. We regard each other for a moment more. The lower levels are worse. There are worse levels below, and I can send you there. I finish, and the abomination is done. With a little hiss, it turns from me, continuing on along its way, crawling across the ceiling. I check around to see if there are more, and once I'm happy, I follow along after it. It'll have Bryce's scent now, if none of the others. I'm careful to keep a comfortable distance, but I feel sure enough to return my key to my pocket, glancing around warily. As the abomination leads me deeper into the labyrinth, through corridor after corridor, the sound of hissing grows louder, through passage after passage. And at last, there they are. Around this final corner, stood in the middle of a wide intersection of varyingly sized corridors, are my trio, Bryce, Blue Hoodie, and the girl. They stand in the shadow of another marble Titan statue. The ceiling is higher in this section of the mall, and the Titan towers up towards it. Its upper chest, head, and shoulders are above the mall's next level. It looks like there are more stores above us, but there's no way to reach them. The Titan's fists are balled in rage, and emotion frozen in time. The abominations are creeping their way around almost every visible surface. There must be at least 50 or more. Bryce is hurriedly reading through the pages of a small notebook. Blue Hoodie and girl are standing on either side of him, sweating and anxious, watching the encroaching abominations. Blue Hoodie spots me first, and he nudges Bryce. The three of them look over to me, and Bryce grimaces, stowing the notebook away in his pocket. Why are you still following us? He asks, his voice echoing around the space. I cringe and glance from abomination to abomination. They are going to hurt us, Bryce says, though he doesn't sound too convinced. I know what they are, what they used to be. You don't know jack shit, I reply. Now what do I have to say to convince you to come back? There are people who care about you. No, not me, but people. Bryce half smiles and raises his voice. Typhon, he shouts to a sudden shiver of hissing around the room. I want to make you an offer. I shake my head with gritted teeth as a cool draft blows down the nearest corridor. Hello, Typhon replies. All eyes look up to see him leaning over the rail of the floor above us, peering down with that grin stretched wide across his face. He's taken the form of Bryce, an altered Bryce, of course. Pure white, with those black, unblinking eyes. The three kids draw a little closer together. What do we have here? Typhon asks, as he drifts down the rail like smoke settling on one of the Titan's knees and resting there. Two young gentlemen and a young lady. He looks over to me. His gaze is, as always, cold. These fine folks with you, minus. Typhon, I mutter, raising a hand. Just let these ones go. Typhon laughs, and the abominations, all perched in wait around us, echo the sound with a series of hisses. Let them go. I'm not keeping them. Typhon's attention drifts back to Bryce, and he leans forwards, resting his chin in his hands. His snake-like tongue flickers out from his mouth. You think you have an offer to make me, young man? I know you like to make deals and bargains. Bryce begins, reaching into his pocket, but Typhon interrupts. Oh, do you? Do you know? You must know all sorts of things. How clever. Clever man. His grin stretches wider still, cracking the corners of his mouth. Clever. Echoed the abominations, hissing. Clever and griever means to be cleaved. Four-leaf cleaver. My blood chills. And what kind of deal and bargain would you like to make with me today? Typhon asks, staring down into Bryce's face. Bryce swallows and draws from his pocket the key to Tartarus, his brother's key glinting purple in the light. "What the hell are you doing?" I hiss at him, but he ignores me. "I'll give you this key, Typhon," Bryce begins. He's doing his best, but he does not sound as confident as he did before. "Oh, I'll give you the key to Tartarus in exchange for something of equal value." "And what would that be?" Typhon asks, the purple-silver shine of the key reflecting in those black pools of his eyes. "Release all the abominations attributed to her. Just let them go." "Now, that is an interesting request," Typhon replies after a pause, slithering around the Titan's knee and standing instead on its foot, a little closer to us, but still a meter or so above ground level. "Attributed to her, you say? Well, I don't have a first idea which of my playthings were the responsibility of your brother." "You're a liar," Bryce replies, though still trying to keep his composure. "Ah, so is your brother then." Typhon grins, flickering his tongue. "I thought I picked up on a family resemblance." "Noted. So you stole his key. Are you sure that it's really yours to offer in trade?" Bryce falters. Typhon chuckles and speaks on. "And I'm not lying to you. It's so difficult to keep track of who sends me my playthings. And why would I care? It matters not who allows them down." I watch this back and forth with white knuckles and a clenched jaw. I do not know if Typhon is truly interested in the key. He's never expressed any particular interest in mine, though it's possible Bryce knows something I don't. Bryce grips the key a little tighter, holds it a little tighter. "Let the abominations go. That's why my brother keeps doing his job year after year. It's because he can't forgive himself. He can't forgive himself for all the people he's leapt through, and he'll never stop coming here until they're all free." Typhon starts making his way towards Bryce. His steps are slow and lazy, but his eyes remain fixed resolutely on the boy. "Do you know what I would do with this key?" "I would use it as bait. Your brother will come down here to try and retrieve it from me. I don't know how he'll get down here without a key, but he's a smart lad. He'll find a way. I doubt his employers would accept such a loss," he grins. "If they know that you were able to steal his key in the first place, well, the damage might already be done." Bryce lowers his hand a little. He stutters. "Aye, his employers?" Typhon says, his eyes flashing. "So you don't know everything then? Interesting. So very interesting." He's standing right in front of Bryce now, looking directly into his eyes. "Your offer is a fun one, but I don't accept offers made by mortals. Allow me to propose one of my own." Is this Bryce's plan, I wonder? A bargain, and a dangerous one at that. I rack my brain as to how to get them out of us, but the next phase kicks in even as I mull it over. Typhon's attention flickers back to the key. That same violet light shines in the void, and his tongue darts out past his teeth. And in this moment, Bryce suddenly raises his voice. "The lower levels are worse," he says. "There are worse levels below." There is a rumbling of hissing from around the room, but my stomach drops. "That's not going to work on Typhon, kid," I shouted at him. "You have no idea what you're doing." Enough. But Bryce carries on. He holds the key in the manner that one would hold a cross in the face of a vampire. "The lower levels are worse. There are worse levels below." Typhon is entranced, fixed on the key. He does not move, and I do not believe what I'm seeing. No, surely not this simple trick. It wouldn't work on Typhon. It couldn't. It barely works on the abominations. The lower levels are worse. There are worse levels below, and I will send you there. Bryce finishes, and in this exact moment, the kids to either side of him, the boy and the girl, with their eyes downcast and barely moving, extras even, not worth a second look, completely devoid of Typhon's attention, jump suddenly into action, and two sharp blades, long knives drawn from inside their clothes, are stabbed into Typhon's chest. There's a sudden scream, and a blast of icy Arctic wind. The abominations and the kids and myself are all knocked backwards as the screech echoes round and round the hall. The elbow of the great marble Titan creaks, and the dust rains down from its joints. Typhon twitches in agony, and he collapses like a stone to the ground with a thud. And for a moment we are stuck in stunned silence. The abominations are likewise frozen. No one dares move. And then a dark grin spreads out across Bryce's face. He looks at me. You see? He begins quietly, then louder. You see what I told you, old man? It worked. He looks down to Typhon's corpse. The tension now eased. He releases a laugh. You couldn't help yourself, could you? He taunts. That's when you're at your weakest, when being offered something you want. Bryce laughs and hugs his friends, drawing him close. He's giddy with excitement. That was for Rex. He shouts with glee. He turns to the abominations. You're free. But the abominations do not rejoice. The mood cracks. Rex, Typhon whispers with delight. Bryce spins around in alarm to find Typhon standing behind him, hands clasped behind his back. The corpse vanishes in a burst of mist. Bryce panics and stumbles, shoving the key into Typhon's face. Typhon pushes it aside with a sigh, his tongue running quickly over his teeth as if it had a mind of its own. I don't want your key, Typhon hisses. He twitches. I don't need it to lure your brother down. He comes down all the time. And Rex, you say? His name is Rex. Stay back, Bryce splutters, his courage completely shot. The lower levels are worse. They are worse. Typhon laughs in Bryce's face and increases his height. He's still using the boy's form, but it grows now, stretching upwards like a snake. Rex. Typhon laughs feverishly, drunkenly almost. He looks up to the sky and laughs all the louder. Rex, a noble name. What's in a name? A Bryce? He stares suddenly down into the face of the boy, his black eyes shining and terrible. I've begun my retreat, careful and slow. I beckon to the others, 2 blue hoodies and the girl, and they began to creep towards me. But Bryce is trapped, transfixed. This was fun, Typhon says airily, tapping Bryce on the head. But I think we're done now, Bryce. Typhon has begun to salivate grotesquely. Saliva spills from his lips and splashes against the cold floor below. I can't wait to meet him. We have so much to discuss. Typhon's neck slithers around, and his eyes meet mine. I made him the same offer that I made you, Midas. He whispers. I wonder if he'll be more inclined to agree when his brother lies below, especially now that I know his name. I take a step back as the abominations close in. What have you done, kid? What have you done? Typhon giggles with glee, frothing at the mouth, and his twisted form, his pale copy of Bryce, stretches further up above our heads like a monstrous cobra. Rex, he repeats over and over, and he points carelessly down at the quivering Bryce below. I'm done with this one, he says to the waiting, watching crowd with a wave of his hand. Bryce can be taken. Hissing and salivating, the abominations scurry towards him. I leap from my position and close the gap in seconds, grabbing the boy by the collar of his sweater and hauling him out of there, roughly pushing aside the abominations as they cluster around us. They are more cautious of me than they are of Bryce. I knew that much already, but still there's just too many. I struggle under the growing weight of the creatures, their cold, clammy hands all over my face and body. I feel their hot, wet breath against my skin, their hissing in my ears. I can feel the sting of their teeth as they bite my arms and legs to keep me in place. To keep me in place so as to undergo the process. I can feel one of my hands starting to become numb as their paralyzing saliva begins taking effect, and I can feel them tugging at Bryce, pulling at his joints as he cries out. There's too many of them. There's just too many. They're wild, unfocused, frenzied, and riled up by their master. In fact, I realize the truth about the chaos. They're getting in each other's way. I can probably get myself out of here, but to do so, I'll have to let go of the lad. He screams louder. Just let him go, I think. And you can't escape, Matthew. Shit, and you know what? I prepare to do just that. I made my decision to abandon him. It's brutal, but tough decisions have to be made down here. I curse and release my grip, bitterly ready to leave behind the boy for whom I've already risked so much. My name is Emma Ray, calls out to the girl just ahead. Jackson calls out Blue Hoodie just off to the right. My name is Jackson, and confusion bubbles amidst the ranks of the abominations. The clustered crowd around me thins as their attention is diverted and displaced. Jackson, Typhon repeats from up high. Emare. He grins and dismisses them with a wave of his hand. The massive abominations split. The ones further back go for their new targets, for the boy or for the girl. I swallow a great breath of air as the pressure against me is reduced. I shove away the gaping, gnawing mouth of an abomination on my arm, drawing blood as I do so, and I briefly turn around, reaching back for Bryce, grabbing him and hauling him out of air as fast as I physically can. Jackson swings round his blade. I catch it flashing in the corner of my eye. Emma does likewise, but there are far too many for me to help them now. There are too many abominations between us. Get back to the corridor, I shout to them. I glance back. Bryce has an expression of terror and bewilderment frozen across his face. His eyes are wide. One of his arms is bleeding, and one is fixed in place, hung awkwardly out from his side. Paralyzed by the look of it, he limps, and a quick look down makes it clear that he is struggling to flex the muscles in one of his legs. I stop and stumble and hoist him up into a fireman's carry. No easy feat when one of your hands has basically fallen asleep and begun barreling my way back to the corridor. All right, I'm me, kids, I shout, already exhausted and now facing the prospect of running all the way back to the main hall with his teenager on my back. But the kids are in no position to join up with me. I shoulder away one of the screeching abominations, cursing as I feel the teeth from one of their massive mouths crunch into my leg. I stamp right into its throat and it chops, struggling beneath my boots as it scuttles away. Kids, hiss one of the nearest creatures. Kids today. Gone tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. I mutter quickly in response, backing up and into the corridor. Looking to my right and to my left, I watch as the knives of the two brave children go flashing and slashing. I watch as they are gradually lost beneath the sea of the creatures. Tomorrow never comes. I will continue. So lower your expectations. Expectations. Salutations. Lower your expectations. Lower your levels. There are levels below. The levels below are worse. There are worse levels below. There are worse levels below. The abomination repeats, slinking back a little, though keeping me within pouncing distance. Guys, Bryce screams, riding on my back. Guys come back, but they cannot hear him. The hissing rises. Emma Ray's blade comes up above the tide of abominations for the final time, and she is lost beneath the monsters. Shit, I swear, still retreating, looking over now to the boy in the blue hoodie, to Jackson. I catch flashes of blue amidst the pale skin of the abominations. An abomination steps on the dropped blade, and it skids across the floor and away. The creatures have sensed these two kids to be the easier targets, and have largely left us alone for now. And a quick glimpse through the crowd shows us Jackson's fate. He is the fate of everyone who gets taken by the abominations. The teenager is paralyzed, frozen. His legs are in the process of being swallowed up whole into one of the abomination's mouths. His arm is lost in the gullet of another Jackson. Bryce screams out, struggling. But I will not let him go. The abominations fight each other, pushing and grabbing and throttling with their many hands, hissing and screeching until one of them wins the fight and Jackson is once again lost to view. They will take everything they can. The abominations will absorb all but his most basic core essence. He will be left as warped and distorted as the beings that surround us. It's time to go. I'm sorry, kids, I mutter, turning to take my leave. I catch Typhon's eye as I do so. The black eye and the white now ringed with orange and rivers of yellow, like a hot, burning coal. The stretched and snake-like creature towers over us all. Rex. He mouths, licking his teeth, then loudly he speaks. I'll be seeing you again soon, Minus. I'm sure you will, Typhon, I reply, shoving to the side one of the bolder abominations as I flee the scene. No, Bryce shouts, doing his best to kick me with his working leg. You have to go back, please. I'm sorry, bud. Not this time. I reply as I make my hasty retreat through the distorted mall complex. A couple more corners, a touch further. And yes, there it is, the bookstore just up ahead. I can see the statue of the Titan through the glass. Bryce has begun to sob. There's no fight left in him now. Poor bastard, nearly there, I grunt. unable to keep myself from slowing at this stage. A bit further, I push us through the double doors of the bookstore with my good hand, and they swing quietly closed behind us. For a moment, there is no sound but that distant orchestra. And then I nearly jumped out of my skin, as an abomination creeps round the corner ahead from between the shelves. It could well be the one from earlier. Perhaps it never left the store after all. "Shit, can you walk, kid?" "Yeah," he replies, and I sit him down. He stumbles and staggers into the nearest shelf, and a book goes falling to the ground. The abomination cocks its head, hissing its great wet mouth as it creeps in a wide arc around us. "Just get through the door. I'll be right after you. Go on now," I say to Bryce, and to his credit, he does so. He limps, and I make sure to keep myself between the abomination and he. It hisses as I draw back up through the store, still trying to catch my breath. I bump into a table and send another couple of books to the floor. I grab the Tartarus key in my pocket and hold it out in front of me. "It's okay," I mutter, beginning the little trick. "It's okay up here, but it's harder lower." The abomination pauses. "Hard. It'll be hard without you, Darren," it whispers. I hesitate, and a slow chill runs up my spine. "What did you just say?" As I mentioned before, the abominations spout nonsense. They react to the things around them, but sometimes they provide glimpses into their former lives, and this too, you can use against them. I can hear Bryce behind me, breathing hard as he watches our interaction. The abomination hisses at me. It approaches, and I raise the key. "What did you say? Where did you go? Who turns out the lights?" "Darren," I repeat quietly. "Was that your name before? Are you giving me sentences you said yourself? Or are you repeating what someone said to you once before, perhaps a long time ago?" The abomination has stopped mid-creep, body angled towards mine. It does not reply, nor does it repeat or echo my words, gritting my teeth. I step towards it. I want to go for it. The penalty for screwing up is rough, but it would be good if I could save just one more. The abomination does not scuttle away at my approach, nor does it lurch forward to tear into my hand. It instead sits tensed as I place my palm on the pale, smooth skin of its head. "Darren," I mutter, then clearer. "Your name is Darren, and I free you now." From the clutches of Tartarus, what follows is no pause, no moment to consider. Reacting instantly, the abomination rears up on its hind legs and dry heaves. It makes a strangled, gurgled screech and heaves again, this time with a torrent of saliva that splashes across the thready carpet of the bookstore. I watch, wide waiting, taking a step back as the monster arrives, and at last it convulses violently and heaves up an entire person naked, soaking wet, a man in his mid-20s by the looks of it, and all that is left behind is an empty skin. A twitching, pale, and crumpled pile of skin, like what a shedding snake might leave behind if a little larger and with more teeth. I wipe the sweat from my forehead and crouch down, nudging the expelled body. "Darren?" I ask quietly, and the body stirs. "What the hell?" Bryce mutters from behind me. "Great, more carrion." I grumbled to myself as I hoisted this disgusting, slippery, naked man up onto my back. Bryce and I walked side by side and back through the mall, back past the statue of the coiled snake and towards the entrance to Gaia. The man on my back has begun to stir. It doesn't usually take him long. "Good," I say, as I set him down with a grunt. He slips and staggers to the ground, and I reach out a hand to help him back up. He stares at me, at Bryce, at his surroundings. "Don't worry about it, pal. You've been saved. You're welcome. You'll get your voice back within the hour. Now be a good lad and go through that tunnel." Darren turns to look through the doorway for Gaia, at the long tunnel that burrows into the peeling green-blue wall at the back. "Go through first, Bryce." "He'll follow," I say, and the boy nods. "Hey, kid," I say, and he pauses, looks at me. He looks awful, shell-shocked, broken. "I'm sorry about your friends." He pauses, then nods again, the reality of the consequences of his actions settling in as he begins to crawl through the tunnel. Darren looks at me, and I urge him forwards. He goes, and after one final glimpse around a realm below, I follow. Till next time, I say to no one in particular, then head on in behind the others. It's significantly more effort on the way back up. You got to put out your hands and knees to wedge yourself in place for the steeper parts. And Darren didn't really have any time to acquiesce before this little climb. So on several occasions, he crashes back into me. A decidedly unpleasant experience, but it's fine. I help him back up each time I've dealt with worse. At last, we ascend through the hole in the floor of Tartarus, hauling ourselves up into the abandoned old store of peeling red and faded black. The other kids are still up here. They stare at us in alarm at all three of us, a new strange and naked man amongst them. Curly steps forward, puts her hand on Bryce's shoulder. "Bryce," she says quietly, concerned, "where are the others? Where's Jackson and Emma Ray?" And Bryce can take it no longer. He breaks. He doubles suddenly over as his body is racked with sobs. He can hardly get the words out as he falls against the nearest wall and collapses to the floor, face in his hands. "It's my fault," he says. "It's all my fault." "Come on," I urge, gently but firmly, as I step between them to unlock the door. Everyone out. I point to the newcomer. "You too, Darren. There's an open/closed door just across from here. Go grab a shirt and get some pants." I watch as the group helps Bryce up, and they stumble out into the mall, and I shake my head. Teenagers, thanks to Bryce, two of his friends now lie below. But then it isn't Bryce's fault. Not really. It's mine. I am a guardian of Tartarus, and the instructions are clear. The responsibility belongs to me, even if you might, to an extent, disagree. I take full blame for this. But hell, you know what? I think my estimation of this particular age group might actually have gone up a little this evening. What those two down there did for their friend, what Emma Ray and Jackson did to try and save Bryce. It was noble. Admirable, if nothing else. I rub a hand across my face. I'm feeling my age tonight. I watch as the teenagers settle onto a nearby bench, doing their best to console Bryce and to work out what happened. And I watch as Darren stumbles his way towards the clothes store. I turn. When I first stepped foot into the Tartarus store 5 long years ago, I counted 21 mannequins in total. 16 had been marked with names and initials. The other 5 were blank. The storeroom was also full of them. Well, the storeroom these days looks like it houses the same amount. But the number of mannequins all around me, stacked and clustered against the walls and the counter, have risen considerably since then. There must be at least 60 here now. It's a wonder that there's any space for him. The world around me is quiet as I consider this. I can hear the distant murmur of the kids beyond the door. But overall, the sound is low. There is no faint and distant orchestra here. It's nice, calming, clear, refreshing, like drinking cool water after a long and beverage-free drive in the sun. I lick my lips. That's something else I could do with some water. I'll grab some in a minute, but first I walked to the counter and picked up the marker, uncapped it on the closest section of red wallpaper, on a part that can be easily peeled away. I write her. "Your name has been compromised. You cannot venture down into Tartarus from here on out." Typhon knows. I head next to a pair of mannequins leaning against each other in the middle of the floor, a male and a female. On the black canvas of the male's face, I write the following with a sigh: a Jackson-M. And on the females, I write Emma Ray-M. "I'm sorry, guys," I mutter. "I hope someone will find you again someday. Maybe it'll even be me." And finally, before departing for the night, I head over to the mannequin closest to the door, marked Darrenar. I cross out the name and initial with 2 black lines, marking an X shape over the mannequin's face. I cap the pen and return it to the countertop, glancing at the bottle of bleach and the rag as I do so. Once Rex sees that this soul has been saved, he'll use these things to wipe the mannequin's face back to blank. "I hope this goes a little way towards alleviating your burden, man," I mutter, before clenching and unclenching the fingers of my bad hand, encouraging the blood flow to return. I stride out into the mall. The kids are all teary-eyed. Darren stands awkwardly at the side, wearing ill-fitting clothes and unsure what to do. "Darren," I say, "do you know where you are? Do you know your way home?" The man nods, mumbles something incomprehensible. "Do you know how long you've been down?" He Hesitates. Well, I can't say for sure, pal, but your name's been on that mannequin since Easter. I remember the displays the mall had set up. So you've been gone for about 10 months or more. He stares at me, and I nod to him. Best of luck, pal. I'll be seeing you. He nods once more, then wanders away. My approach might seem cold, but I've done this before. He'll be all right. Don't worry about him. I turn next to the kids. It's time for you guys to be heading home now, too. I say to them, gentler than before. But Sir Curly asks me, stepping forwards, what about Jackson and Emma Ray? You'll see them again someday. I don't know when. It's rough, I know. And I know that none of you are likely to get much sleep tonight, but you need to be heading home now. I nod to Bryce, and you make sure your brother gets that key back. Don't ever tell him you were down here. Curly nods at me reluctantly, and she returns to the group of 5, and I watch them leave. They catch up to Darren and walk with him, looking after him, perhaps. I wait to see if Bryce is going to say something. He turns back to me on his way out just once, washed with the others in the purple light through the sky windows, but he remains silent. And after they've left my field of vision, I return to Tartarus. I lock up the front door with a click, and I slide the key into my pocket. I hold down the metal sheet with a rattle, and I walk back to my chair, slumping down with a great, slow sigh. I reach down for my coffee and take a sip. It's cold now, of course. And so that's that. Lots of open threads, unfortunately, here at my little story's end. Sorry about that. But I'm still doing my job here in the mall and trying to do it a little bit better too. Or am I? On the whole, yes, I am more vigilant. I'm far more cautious. Nobody's been let in and nobody's been let out. That being said, however, I have an occasional guest these days, a guest who comes by sometimes during my shifts. It's Bryce, of course. He comes alone, and he sits nearby on another of the massage chairs. I try to shoo him away the first time, but you know what he's like? He's a stubborn bastard, so I let him sit with me on the condition that he doesn't bother me. He's suffering, the poor guy, and I don't blame him. He's guilt-racked, nightmares and the like. He's wanted to go back down, back down into Tartarus. I haven't allowed it. He feels that it's his responsibility. I take the fact that he is actually asking me as a sign that he's truly returned Rex's key, that Rex is being more careful with it, or maybe that Bryce has developed some form of begrudging respect for me. Perhaps it's both, but Typhon will be growing impatient by now. I know that Typhon is desperate for Rex to return, to welcome my colleague back to Tartarus, and to throw open his arms and to make the man an offer. An offer to beat the one made by our mysterious employers all those years ago. I shift in my seat. When Typhon is in a bad mood, it can be very unpleasant. Very damn unpleasant indeed. And I don't know what he would do to Bryce if he thought he could use the boy to lure Rex back down. He was careless before. He was willing to let the abominations consume him. He was arrogant and thought that Rex would come back down regardless. But Rex has done well. He's held out from his obsession. He's stepped up his game as well, perhaps. I haven't asked Bryce if the guy's still drinking. Part of me doesn't want to know. I suspect that he probably is to some degree, though hopefully he's at least cut back. Typhon won't make the same mistake. And so I cannot allow Bryce back down as badly as he wants to go. Credit to the kid, he isn't whiny about it. He doesn't pout or beg. He just nods and settles back into his seat, staring bleary-eyed at the door to Tartarus. Sometimes he even drifts off. Through the sky window, the clouds roll gently across the moon, and the mall is bathed in shades of gentle but ever-changing purple indigo to violet to lilac and back. The music comes crisp and clear through my headphones. Jolene again. Bryce had tossed this pair to me one night. Still in their box, brand new. They're not from me, he'd said. Avery brought them for you. They're the latest model of the shit ones you're using now. And damn, they sure are nice. They're more comfortable too. Maybe kids aren't so bad. Frustrating, sure. Irritating and anxious and stubborn and emotional. But hell, that doesn't mean they ain't good people at heart. Indigo to violet to lilac and back. The world turns in Tartarus. Turns beneath. I moved into this house 3 weeks ago, and it's my first house. I'll be in debt, paying it off for years. It came with a little surprise. I saw the thing during the dam walkthrough, like over a month ago. That probably should have registered as a red flag, but nobody else can see it. I've always had trouble speaking up. I hate making a fuss, but the realtor cheerfully called my girlfriend and I into the living room to take a look at this. I stepped out of the foyer and into the living room, where I almost threw the hell up. The realtor stood there, his big rehearsed smile on his face, waving his hands around about all the natural light this room gets, seemingly completely oblivious to the rotten body he was standing over. I was 2 seconds away from losing my shit, but then my girlfriend Abby smiled and walked in, stepping right over the body like it was completely normal. It's beautiful. If I ever move in with you, I've totally got design ideas. I just stood there, likely with a big, confused, pale look on my face. I tried to say something. All I got out was a strange, questioning noise, something like, whoa. I was completely flabbergasted. After some slack-jawed silence, Abby ran up to me, once again hopping over the body. Are you okay? You look pale. That doesn't sicken you? I asked, pointing at the moldering, slimy corpse lying face down 4 feet away from her. She looked where I was pointing, but then looked back confused. Jack, the carpets aren't that bad. You don't see the body. You jumped over it. Body? She looked around the room, her eyes scanned right over the bloody corpse. Are you messing with me? Her eyes were filled with genuine confusion, mixed with mild alarm. I was almost offended by her response. I mean, dead body that only I'm reacting to, and I'm the one messing with people. But I like Abby. She's pretty, she's funny, she's a hard worker. I'm really happy I met her, and I really don't want to mess things up with her. We'd only been dating about a month and a half by then, so after fumbling my words a bit, I just forced a smile. Yeah, I'm just messing around. I jumped when the real estate agent sidled up to us. Do you see something on the carpets? He squatted down, looking around where I was looking. I swear, his face was inches from the stringy, matted hair of the corpse's head. If you don't like the carpeting, I can recommend someone to change the flooring pretty cheaply. The carpets are fine, but there's no corpse or anything. He gave me a weird look as he stood up. No, nobody's been murdered in this house, if that's what you mean. I the grisly remains again. You don't say. No, sir. In fact, this house was built in the late 2000s. It's only had one owner before you, and they retired to Florida. I was pretty excited when this house hit the market. It ticks off all the check marks he gave me. Basement, gas stove, 2-bedroom, 3-bath, and room to grow into. He wasn't wrong. I love the neighborhood too. It was only a 15-minute drive to town, 20 minutes to where I work, and it was within my price range. It was kind of perfect. I forced myself to look away from its apparently invisible, to everyone but me resident, and continue the tour. Abby smiled at me and pointed out how crazy I would be to not take this deal. So I signed the papers, and a month later I moved in. Disappointingly, the corpse was still freaking there, so it wasn't just a one-time mental break for me. I watched in fascination as all my friends who were helping me move seemed to just gravitate away from it, or around it. They acted as if it weren't even there, but still they stepped over and around it. Like, what the hell is up with that? My gaming buddies started rigging up my TV and game consoles for me in that living room. Maybe gaming should go in another room, I meekly suggested. You sure, dude? What other room? I thought you were making your office in the second bedroom. Damn it. Why didn't I wait for a 3-bedroom? Yeah, you're right. Abby then sat down on my beloved gaming floor chair, like 2 feet away from the rotten remains. All I could do was cringe. I don't get to play video games that much anymore. Abby stayed the night with me after we got the bed set up, so the next night was my first one alone with it. I had my hammer at the ready because I just knew this thing was waiting for me to be alone. But he just lay there. After an hour of horrible tension, I walked out and took a good look at him. I even gave him a name, Frank. I'm no expert on crime scenes, obviously, but I do watch crime shows sometimes. The dude's skull was caved in. I'd say someone wailed on his head with, like, a baseball bat or something. He was pretty badly rotted at this point, but luckily he wasn't covered in maggots or anything. His head had been hit so hard that it looked like one of his eyes popped out. It dangled from the mostly rotten nerve endings of his eye socket. I almost threw up when I noticed that detail. But what can I do? I was the only one that could see Frank, so I kind of just ignored him like everyone else. I thought of maybe moving him, but the thought of touching him makes me retch. I tried poking him with a stick once. I definitely touched something, or thought I did. He's got to be a hallucination. Nobody even sees him, but then, why do people step over him? Why doesn't he smell? I'm either hallucinating, or this is a massive gaslight by all the people I know. But what the hell would they do that for? I'll be talking to my therapist about it. Can't wait to learn about how I seem to be developing psychosis. But my therapist has been a godsend, and I feel pretty safe telling them when something weird is going on. Frank, you make a great listener, but you're starting to bum me out. Oh my God, there's another one. There's another body next to Frank. So I spoke to my therapist. She didn't seem to know what to make of this, but I gotta hand it to Mrs. Lang. She really knows how to roll with the punches. I mean, before, I was probably just like any other patient. I was stressed in my early 20s, yes. I went through a bad breakup. Both of my parents passed away, separate causes, but only like 2 years apart, and I just couldn't seem to get a career together. Mrs. Lang helped me pick myself back up. She helped me move on from the breakup, mourn my parents, and get to work on my career. Now here I am, with a stable job, a stable girlfriend, and I even bought my own house. Therapy is a wonderful tool. But then this. Whenever the hell this is happening, I imagine it's a bit of a curveball. I stepped nervously into her office and got comfy on the couch. She welcomed me and sat down with her clipboard at the ready. So how are you, Jack? Last time we talked, you were looking into buying a house. How'd that go? Mrs. Lang, I'm gonna level with you. I'm here because I'm experiencing something. Very weird. Weird. How? My new house has a corpse in it that only I can see. Like it's invisible to everyone but me. Oh, so not the usual then. I laughed out loud. Before we continue, what exactly happened, Jack? I told her the same story I told you guys. How I first saw the body during the initial walkthrough. How I bought the house anyway. How none of the people who have been in my house in the 4 weeks since I moved in seemed to even see the thing. How I'd basically just ignored it. And how just a day prior, a second corpse appeared. She listened with her usual stoic face, nodding slowly as I spoke. That's definitely weird, she stated when I was done. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but before I do, I want to assure you. I don't think you're crazy or anything. You know that, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I agree on that deduction, but you've always been on my side. Well, first off, have there been any changes to your medications in the last few months? No, I was thinking about cutting back on the depression meds, but then this happened. You didn't stop taking them though, right? No. I know we've talked about it before, but once more, there weren't any traumatic occurrences in your past, your childhood. No, nothing like that. Do you believe in ghosts? It took me a second to answer that one. I mean, I love scary stories. I love the idea of vengeful spirits lurking in our periphery, but do I actually believe in them? I don't think so. Even now. I mean, I don't know. It can't be ghosts. That's crazy. Nobody is crazy for believing something, but answer me this. In your mind, what do you think is happening to you? That's another one that stumped me. I think I must be hallucinating. It can't be real, right? That's reasonable. It's a very strange situation, to be sure. But moving can be stressful. So can a fear of losing what you've gained. It wouldn't be that strange for you to have some sort of stress response at this time. But to be honest, I don't get that impression from you. The only thing stressing you out seems to be this new development. Do the bodies look like people you know? Frank doesn't, though it's hard to tell with his head caved in. I haven't really looked at the second one. All I've really noticed was the torn open stomach. Well, if there's any chance there are actual bodies in your home, I'd advise you to call the police. But if you think you're hallucinating, what I think you should do for now For one, start seeing me weekly again to keep me updated. Two, I know this sucks and I don't think I would ever advise that a client touch a corpse, but in your unique circumstance, I think you need to prove to yourself that what you're dealing with is a hallucination. Once you know for sure, we can start working to resolve this. But this is bringing up something we talked about before, Jack. It is. Remember how we talked about not letting things that make you sad or uncomfortable just happen? This is not the same as telling my coworker to stop asking me to cover his shift. No, and I appreciate that, but you did buy a house with a corpse in it. She had me there. I really did want to buy the house, I said, and we spent the rest of the time working on me. Ultimately, I left her office with a sense of confidence. Things are going well. I'm not letting this, whatever it is, ruin all the progress I've made. The first thing I have to do is figure out what this event is. I'd also very much like it to get the pair of them out of my damn living room. To do that, I bought some things. I got a nice big lawn cart that looked big enough to hold 2 sets of remains. I got some big shovels and 3 boxes of disposable ponchos. I already had several boxes of rubber gloves at home. It took another 4 days to gather the courage to do what I wanted to do, for days of uneasy sleep. Thankfully, I had work to distract me. During that time, I did myself to take a few closer looks at my roommates. Frank didn't really offer anything new. He appears to be a dude. He's dressed like an office worker, blue-collared shirt and khakis. He's got black hair. It's hard for me to tell an age or a skin color since his skin's all gray and papery now. All the fluids seem to be dried up, thank the gods. There's just some black and gore and a greenish-brown tint to the carpet beneath him. If nobody can see him, I think I'll put off cleaning that for a while. I'm nowhere near in the headspace to scrub corpse juice out of the carpet. The new body I've been desperate to avoid. The only thing I investigated was that the doors and windows were locked on the day it arrived. They were. This thing just kind of appeared in my locked house. The only things I really noticed were the dirty yellow top and the lack of stomach skin. Also the intestines just all over her lower half. I'm fairly confident this is a woman's body, or at least she likely identifies that way. She was dressed kind of like a cheerleader. Her dark hair was in messy pigtails, and she wore a skirt and a matching halter top, both of them decorated with bright yellow and blue colors. It's hard to identify any other characteristics when she just looks like a slightly deflated corpse with only dried, ropey tissues remaining. Her head wasn't smashed open like Frank's, but that doesn't help much. It just makes her face look super uncanny valley, like she's barely human anymore. Just a leathery mask sitting on top of a skull. I was going to call her Chelsea the cheerleader, but for some reason Tina sounds better for her. Honestly, if her corpse wasn't splayed half in my living room and half in my front hallway, I feel sorry for her. Frank, too, come to think of it. Observing them for the last few days has made me realize that they don't change. All the details always seem to be the same. I don't think they're even getting more decomposed. They're just Frank and Tina. Other than those observations, I avoided them as much as I could, building up my courage for last night, which is the first day of my weekend. That's when I went about trying to get the pair out of my living room. First, I put on rubber gloves and made sure I was nice and safe beneath a disposable poncho. Several ponchos. Then I slowly scooted forward and tried touching Frank for the first time. I just poked him with my index finger. I most definitely feel something. There's something I'm touching that nobody else can see, and it has the consistency of dry jerky. Oh my God. I think I'm going to gag just thinking about it. Once I was used to one finger of contact, I tried grabbing Frank's arm. I was able to lift it up. I damn near barfed. It felt like a slightly squishy stick. One that was actually a human arm. Well, maybe it looked like one. I'm way too squeamish for this. So I set Frank's arm down before the hand dangling loosely from his wrist could sicken me further. Okay, I thought. I can physically touch them. There's no reason I can't move him. So under cover of night, I wheel my lawn cart up onto the deck in my backyard and grab my shovels. A word of advice to any would-be corpse movers. Don't use a snow shovel to move a corpse. I slowly worked the snow shovel under Frank's torso until I could lift him up. The way his limbs dangled, the way his head rolled unnaturally, spilling what looked like old mulch onto the carpet from the cavity in his head. The crackling sounds. Oh my God, all of that was awful. I carried him to the back door, retching the whole way. I eased my way through my back door. I had to take it in an angle to fit him through, but then I banged his legs on the door frame, and he spilled out of the shovel and hit the deck with a wet splat. The impact caused something to splatter all over my pants and shoes. I gathered him back up as best I could and heaved him into the lawn cart before throwing up over the side of my deck. Once I finally composed myself, I started talking to Frank. I'm not really sure why. Sorry, Frank, I said. So sorry. I don't want you guys in my living room. You're freaking me out. I'll bring Tina too. You guys can't be real, right? You're all in my head. I looked into the cart. I found Frank's already smashed skull had come apart even more. Somehow there was still an eye socket with a dead, squishy-looking, milky white eye looking up at me accusingly. Sorry, Frank. I stumbled away and headed back to my living room to retrieve Tina. I made sure to step over the brown spot where Frank had been. I had to gather up all of Tina's ropey intestines. I stuffed them back into the squishy cavity of her torso, which felt so gross on so many levels. I felt like I was not only defiling, but also violating a corpse. Oh God, why me? I kept muttering apologies as I worked the shovel under her and scooped her up. I carefully turned and started heading for the back door, but then I tripped on something squishy. In my attempt to stay upright, I accidentally catapulted Tina off the shovel. She ended up splayed over my 90-inch TV, her innards, and a weird brown fluid spilled all over the screen as her legs dangled bare and my TV rocked from the force. After watching all that in bewilderment, I turned to see what I'd tripped on. It was Frank. Frank was back. For the most part, it was like I'd never moved him, but tripping over his torso jostled him just enough to make it somehow look like his flattened skull was staring right at me. So that's what I did last night. I learned the bodies won't let me move them. I spent a few hours after that in the shower and the rest of the night staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, trying to decide if I was haunted or crazy. It's about mid-morning now. I didn't sleep. Abby is supposed to spend a day with me. She's going to try to connect her HBO Max account to my TV so we can watch Godzilla vs. Kong together. I suppose I should figure out how to clean Tina off the screen and then figure out if I can hold it together for the day. What the hell am I going to do? Oh, Tina cleaned herself off the TV apparently. That's nice. The corpses are back in their original spots. It's like nothing happened yesterday. I should move my lawn cart. The bodies are still here. Boy, well, that was thrilling. Some shit has gone down in the last few days. For one, I think I'm in love with Abby. For two, the police showed up at my house. Third, and most alarming of all, I'm now 90% certain that the corpses in my living room are just in my head. All three of these things are scaring the ever-loving shit out of me. Last time we spoke, I was freaking out about how I couldn't move Frank and Tina, as well as my upcoming date with Abby. After writing, I sprinted through the house, cleaning as best I could. I was spared the horror of having to clean guts and corpse juice off my TV, which was a huge plus. I think I stopped briefly to plead with my spectral roommates. Please don't freak me out tonight. I'm sorry I tried to move you. Please let this date go smoothly. Abby showed up a little early, but that was okay. I tried to smooth myself over as best I could, but she could tell that something was off as soon as I opened the door. Hey, Jack, are you alright? You don't look so good. I might have gawked for a second. Abby isn't big on makeup, but she definitely applied some today. She looked beautiful. Her pretty blue shirt and the makeup she'd applied really made her eyes pop. Shit, that reminded me of Frank. I don't look good. You look amazing. I was only half kidding there. I felt genuine remorse that I hadn't put in the same amount of effort. She smiled. And did I make her blush? When have I ever made pretty ladies blush? Sorry, I didn't sleep very well or at all last night. But come in. I've been looking forward to this all week. The date went amazing. We popped a pizza in the oven, shared a few glasses of wine, we got her HBO account working, and watch the latest incarnation of my favorite movie star in Godzilla vs. Kong. The evening was just too perfect. We struggled a bit on whether or not to open another bottle of wine, but eventually she ran out to her car and got another one. I risked a short glance over at my rotting roommates who'd been quiet spectators the whole evening. "Thanks for keeping quiet," I whispered. Abby partially stumbled back in, landing in my lap on the couch, and she giggled up at me. I thought to myself how lucky I am, corpses aside. Then she said, "Jack, before I have any more to drink, there's something I want to say." "You sound serious." She playfully sock-ped my arm before sitting up and turning to face me, looking me in the eyes. "I really like you, Jack. These past few months, they've been a lot of fun. I've had some shitty relationships in the past, but I don't think I had one where I was this excited just to spend time with someone. You're sweet. You respect my boundaries. You're self-sufficient. You put up with my bullshit and my boy band obsession, and most importantly, you're not a crazy person." That one hit me like a nice lance to the heart. All the warm, fuzzy feelings that had been building almost snuffed themselves out completely. But, damn it, I couldn't bring myself to speak. I finally mustered my courage. "Abby, after everything you just said, you have no idea what it all means to me. You put up with my bullshit and we just click so well. But I've told you I've struggled in the past with just letting things happen. And I have to tell you something." She cocked her head, but her face was hard to read. "I might be a crazy person," I said. She laughed. "What do you mean? I see a corpse. 2 corpses in this house, and nobody else can see him." Her eyes widened a bit at that. I would have stopped there to gauge a reaction, but instead the floodgates opened, and next thing I knew, I was spilling everything to her about Frank and Tina, including my grisly attempt to move them the previous night. She listened stoically until I was finished. I was afraid to say anything. I didn't want to scare you or anyone. I have no idea what's going on or why. I'm seeing my therapist, and I'm doing everything I can to make them go away. She put a finger to my lips. I think she meant to silence me, but in the end, she just stuck her finger into my gums. "That's what matters, Jack. You're working to fix it, and you haven't asked me to shoulder any other burden. I'm sorry you've had to deal with that alone. It's a weird one. Are they in the room with us?" "Yeah. Frank is right next to my chair." She looked towards the spot. "What about the cheerleader?" I pointed towards the hall. She looked there too. "Oh man, that gives me chills. How could you ignore them?" I just keep insisting to myself that they aren't real. Besides, I wasn't going to let them ruin the evening. She looked back at me and stared thoughtfully for a moment. "Okay, Jack, so long as you keep seeing help and all, this isn't a deal breaker. In fact, I'll be glad to support you through all this. Maybe you've got ghosts. Maybe. I can't decide which is worse, haunted or crazy. Whatever the case may be, you're Jack, and I still really like you. Hold on, for the sake of full disclosure, I have a confession to make too. Oh God, what could be worse than a literal skeleton in the closet? Living room, you know what I mean." She actually looked away from me and gave a nervous sigh before she continued. "When I was in high school, I had a really bad relationship with a guy in college. He was cruel, selfish, and manipulative. Did he hurt you?" I asked after she paused. "No, I got lucky. My mom somehow got the message through to me that this guy was bad news, so I sent him a breakup text and tried to just pretend it never happened. But that guy, his name is Sherman. He didn't give up. He showed up at my house and wouldn't leave until my parents called the cops. He stalked me on social media. I blocked him, and so many others that I'm pretty sure were also him. Then, later on, he figured out where I went to college. Finally, after trying to corner me in a classroom, I was able to successfully get a legal restraining order. I hoped that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. I can't prove anything yet, but I've seen signs of that asshole weird, anonymous comments online, little notes in odd places, and I swear I see him sitting in cars sometimes. He might know where I live. She was clearly upset by the time she finished. I'm sorry, Abby. That's really creepy. Yeah, well, you know now. It's something you might have to deal with if you want to stay with me. That's what sucks the most. This asshole makes me drag him through my whole life. What do you mean, if? I bought a house with corpses in it. You really think a creepy ex is going to stop me? She smiled. If you're willing to support me, I'd be glad to support you too. The rest of the night was magical. I'd honestly completely forgotten about the rest of the stress in my life. 30 in the morning, we were rudely awoken by a blood-curdling scream. It pierced our warm little bubble and ripped us awake. What the hell? Abby shouted. All I could do was make weird noises and whimper. I scrambled up, trying to figure out what to do. You heard that? Yes, someone screamed. I think someone's broken in. That hadn't even occurred to me. I just assumed Frank and Tina were punishing me for having a good time. Stay here. I'm not sure why it came out as a question. I was trying to be brave so I could heroically investigate myself, but I failed miserably. No, she replied, grabbing her keys and the pepper spray attached to them. I searched for a weapon and settled on my bedside lamp. Then I led us into the living room where the scream originated. As the bedroom door creaked open and I stepped in, the first thing I noticed was the damn graveyard stillness of the room. With all the lights off, it was hard to see, but enough moonlight came through the windows to illuminate things. I was in full-blown panic mode. I half expected the corpses to be standing there waiting to scream at me some more. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears. I scanned the room. Nothing moved. Everything was as silent as the dead, which wasn't helped at all by the dead body on my living room floor. But then I froze. Abby darted out from behind me, flicking on the lights when I forgot to, and keeping her finger on the trigger of her pepper spray. I don't see anything, Jack. She turned to look at me. I imagine I looked pale and terrified. Jack, what's wrong? I struggled to form words. Abby turning the lights on had confirmed that what I thought I saw in the dark was absolutely true. I looked at Abby. Tina is missing. Wait, the cheerleader? I could only nod. Frank lay right where he always did, but he was alone. Tina was just gone. The spot where Tina had lay was still brown. And then I noticed another bone-chilling detail. A brown smear led from the spot and into the hallway towards the front door, out of sight. Has someone dragged her away? I looked closer. There were these splotches. Evenly spaced on either side of the smear, I stepped forward for a closer look, and if I could have gotten any paler, I'm sure I would have. The splotches were handprints. They looked mostly human, but bizarrely thin, almost like Tina's desiccated corpse hands. I looked back at Abby. I couldn't get another word out. What is it, Jack? She put a hand on my shoulder. It made me feel a little better. I think she crawled away. Abby's eyes went wide. She was scared too. No, why wouldn't she be? Okay, where did she crawl? I cautiously approached the hall to see where the prints led. I actually did shriek then, as I rounded the corner and spotted the figure on the ground. It was Tina. She lay on the floor, face down, which is not her usual pose, just as dead and unmoving as she always was. The crawl stain and handprints led right to her, but she just lay there in the middle of the hallway, about 10 feet away from her normal spot. Only after I'd stared for a moment did I realize the front door was wide open. The door is open, I said, and I found Tina. That corpse thing is freaking me out, she said. Yeah, me too. Abby gathered her wits before I did. She stepped into the hall and looked around. Okay, I still don't see a body, but you're right, the door is definitely open. Also, what's this? She walked down the hall as I sheepishly followed her. She bent over and stared at a white boxy thing lying under one of Tina's hands. Is that a camera? It was. I think it was some sort of hybrid of digital and Polaroid. Yes. Shit, call the police. Tell them you think you've had a break-in. What? Why? My stalker ex had a camera like this. Oh, shit, why did Tina grab the camera? Tina grabbed it. Her hand is on it. Seriously, call the cops and don't touch the camera. What if they see the body? I don't see it. Why would they? I almost continued to argue, but damn it, I have to stop letting things happen, right? So I called the police. A patrolman arrived about 15 minutes later. The early morning sun was starting to come up when he arrived. He knocked on the door, shouting, "Open up, police." I'm pretty sure it was just in my head, but boy did he sound accusatory. I nervously opened the door for him. "Sorry to bother you this morning, sir, but we got a slightly unusual situation here. I understand that you called to report a break-in." "Yeah, we heard a scream or something at like 4:30 in the morning." "We?" "Oh yeah, Abby, my girlfriend, spent the night here." Abby stepped up beside me as I spoke. "We went to investigate. We found the door open and that camera on the floor." I nervously pointed back towards Tina, praying the officer didn't see her like I could. "All right, ma'am, can you corroborate all of that?" "Yeah, that's what happened, officer. I have to admit something, though. I might have left the front door unlocked last night. I don't remember locking it after I got out of my car. You still had an uninvited intruder who screamed and dropped that camera, right?" "Yes, sir." The officer kept jotting things down on his clipboard. "Okay, so here's the weird part. We got another call from a distraught individual a few seconds before we got yours. He claims to have seen a dead woman in this house, but he was small on the details. I don't have a warrant or anything, but would you mind if I took a quick look around?" "Oh, sure." I can't even describe how terrified I was. I think the officer noticed, but Abby stayed nice and calm. We stayed right there in the doorway, while the officer stepped into the hall eyeing the camera, then stepping right over Tina and into the living room. He didn't see her. I let out a relieved sigh. While we stood there waiting for a few minutes, someone started yelling, "Abby, get away from him, Abby. He's a killer. I'm saving you." A man dressed in black clothes came running up to us. "Don't worry, Abby." "Sherman." Abby friggin' growled the name through her teeth. "Stay back, Sherman," she shouted. So this was Sherman. Other than being sweaty looking at the moment, he really didn't look like a shady, creepy stalker. He just looked like some dude. Abby's shout stopped him in his tracks. "Abby, the corpse." I said stay back. She shouted, "You ungrateful bitch, I'm saving your life. What's going on up here?" The officer had returned. Sherman began shouting before anyone else could. "Officer, I'm the one who called the police about the murders. Arrest him and get her out of here." "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. Why don't you explain to us what happened?" "What's there to explain? The bodies, right?" He suddenly looked confused as he peered past us into the hallway. It was right there, in the hallway. I was just looking at it. I quizzically looked back. I still saw Tina lying there in the hallway. "There's no bodies in this house, sir." It was right there. I just saw it. He moved it. "Sir, he's been standing right here this whole time. Now, why don't you explain to me why you came to believe there was a body in the hallway?" He paused. "Because you broke in?" Abby finished for him. "No, you left the door unlocked." "You clearly invited me." "No, I did not." "Then why did you leave the door unlocked?" "You needed me to save you." "I left the door unlocked by mistake, Sherman." "You aren't saving me from shit." The officer quieted them both down. "Ma'am, do you know this man?" "Unfortunately, I was granted a restraining order against him, which he is currently violating." "Is that so?" "Sir, I'm going to need you to get on your knees and put your hands on your head for me." Creepy Sherman didn't take that well. Next thing we knew, he was screaming about how much Abby owed him, how she was his, how she'd been leading him on all along. "Sir, stop shouting. Then get on your knees." "But I'm saving her from him." "He's not stealing her from me. He killed a cheerleader. I just stood there with what I hope was a poker face. I'm telling you, officer, it was there. There was a dead body of a cheerleader. It chased me down the damn hall." "The dead body chased you?" The officer asked incredulously. There was fear in Sherman's eyes now. He hadn't meant to say that part. "I'm going to ask you one more time. Get on your knees." Sherman did not cooperate, so the kind officer tasered him into submission, cuffed him, and escorted him away. Abby and I both had to go down to the station to give statements. I tactfully omitted the part about me seeing the bodies, too. I'd feel worse about that. But the officer picked up the camera. Tina had returned to her old spot by then, and he found it both on and with its password mysteriously unlocked. Within his image files were dozens of images of Abby. She wasn't aware of the camera in any of them. He'd been following her for months. The police found that suspicious enough that they searched his car and found duct tape, rags, and ether in his trunk. Who knows what that unassuming shit stain of a human being was planning to do, but he won't be able to haunt Abby ever again. There's more than enough evidence of conspiracy, along with violating a restraining order, breaking and entering, and filing a false claim with the police. I gave Abby some space, but told her if she needed me, I'd be there. She came over a day later. She hasn't left. So, yeah, it's been a hectic week. I'll be scheduling another visit with my therapist to talk about all this. I think I know for sure now, though. Sherman saw Tina when he broke into my house to do whatever it was he was going to do. He saw the same dead woman in the same yellow cheerleader outfit. He even claimed that the dead woman chased him out of the house, that he'd screamed and dropped his camera as she crawled towards him, growling. The police used that as more evidence of lying, but I don't think creepy old Sherman was lying about that. Not that I'll ever say that. It has convinced both me and Abby that what I'm experiencing isn't just in my head. Something I can't explain is going on. There's some sort of ghost in my house. Apparently, they can move more than I've been led to believe if they so choose. They seem to have done us a favor, but I can't help feeling scared. What if it was more of a warning? Boy, this past week has been messing with my head. Abby uncovered something pretty insane. First off, let me just say that things have calmed down for Abby and I after that fiasco with creepy Sherman. Sherman is now behind bars, and it's looking like there's enough evidence to keep him there and get him some therapy. I felt worse for Abby. It's gotta be, I don't even know, humiliating, terrifying. Enraging, all of the above, even without the possibly saved by ghost fact. After having a creepy ex break into the house you're in and trying to sabotage your life. Yikes. She says she's feeling better now, especially since he's finally in prison. But none of us are here to hear about run-of-the-mill average, everyday spookiness. We're here because there's corpses in my living room that only I can see. Well, at least until that stalker broke in. Abby is completely convinced that something paranormal is going on. I was pretty convinced too, but I have to admit I was still resisting. He was probably on drugs. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he knows I post online, I said. The past 5 days have definitely convinced me, though. There's definitely something paranormal going on. First and foremost, Abby looked into missing cheerleaders in our area. Tina's outfit doesn't have a school emblem on it or anything, just a generic Go team. So it was possible it was a costume. Abby looked into that and she found something. In the early 90s, a 23-year-old woman disappeared. She was last seen wearing the exact same cheerleader outfit as the corpse in my living room. She'd been at a Halloween party, but here's the scary part. Her name was Tina. Tina Pulowski. Finding out there was a missing girl wearing the same outfit as the corpse haunting me was creepy enough. But how the hell did I guess her name? It had to be an unlikely coincidence, right? Maybe. But then Abby found something else. She plugged in Frank to her search and found Frank Chaplin, a 32-year-old accountant who'd been murdered at an office party. His coworker, known for being volatile, got drunk and angry and shoved Frank out a window. He fell 5 stories and hit his head on a stop sign on the way down. He was wearing the same blue shirt and khakis as the corpse in my living room. I have no idea what to make of this. Abby started asking questions about whether or not I hear voices and such. I had to wonder about myself. I mean, we've all got an internal monologue of sorts. Has mine always been mine? Here's the thing, though. I've never seen corpses before. I'm also 90% sure that I've never heard foreign voices in my head. I chose the names Frank and Tina because they just felt right. I really don't know or understand why they felt right, though. Abby thinks maybe they reached out to me somehow. That still sounds like insanity, but who knows? To me, the most important question is why. Why did these 2 dead people show up at my house? Tina kind of makes sense in a ghost story sort of way. Her body's missing. She wants to be found and possibly avenged. That's a horror story classic. But what about Frank? 13 witnesses saw his coworkers start a fight and push him out a window. The killer confessed and is now in jail. So why is he here? Hell, he was here first. Is there something he wants to tell the world? Or is there something else going on? So our research has given us some answers, but even more questions. I was interested in testing how exactly the bodies work. I tried taking photos of them. In the image, I can see them, but of course nobody else can. Abby just sees carpet. Same with video. But the video did help me prove something else. I had Abby walk towards me and film the whole thing. I got her on camera stepping over Frank. She stared at that video for 10 minutes with her brow furrowed in intense focus. It was kind of cute. She says she has no memory of stepping like that, but she clearly sees herself doing it. After that, she started walking back and forth, trying to catch herself doing it again. She even tried it with her eyes closed. Every time she jumps or steps over the body, and every time she does, she can't remember doing it. I came out of the bedroom and found her trying to crawl over the spot one morning. It looked like she was about to shove her face right into Frank's back. "Look, I'm on the spot," she called. "Actually, you're forming a bridge over Frank. If your legs scoot forward another inch, you'll touch him." "Why?" "I can't." "Why?" Why? Why can't you move your leg forward?" "Why?" "I'm going to get up now." She struggled to get herself up, acting as if she desperately didn't want to touch the corpse she apparently couldn't see. That's so weird, Jack. I remember not being able to move my leg, but I don't know why. That was an interesting development. Abby has some idea that she's trying to do something, but she can't. Of course, she's been trying to touch them a lot. Maybe Frank took pity on her. We tried a few more experiments, which were at least interesting. I tried placing a playing card on Frank's back. In theory, if Frank's invisible, Abby should see a floating card, right? Well, she saw the card, but she says it looks like it's sitting on the ground, but it didn't fall, right? She tried to explain that it looks like when it hits Frank, it seems to twitch or fall too slow. She said it almost looked glitchy. I tried taking photos and a video of the phenomena, but all the pictures came out glitched, ironically. The day after our experiments, a new corpse appeared. I really hope they don't keep showing up. This one was grotesque. I think it's the corpse of a drowning victim. He's all bloated and swollen, like a giant pimple. I can hardly stand looking at his almost inhuman visage for too long. Poor guy. Drowning is not the way I want to go. I got my inspection of him down as quickly as I could so I could avoid staring longer than I had to. He'd appeared between my kitchen and my living room. He looked soaking wet, but luckily he didn't seem to be leaking. Only the floor right beneath his blubbery-looking body seemed wet at all. His oily, oozy, bloated-looking state almost led me to call him Jabba the Hutt, but that's just mean. You shouldn't mock the dead, although I would argue the dead shouldn't take up residence in your house without permission. The drowned man is Justin. Justin felt right. Abby did some web surfing and found Justin Taylor, who disappeared in the early 2000s a few towns away after going fishing. He'd presumably fallen overboard and drowned in a lake. His body was never found. I noticed something interesting, though. The bizarrely pale color of the bloated, papery skin around his neck showed me another clue. It's bruised. The bruising looks stretched, probably because of how bloated he is, but it definitely looks like handprints. I think Justin was strangled to death before being dumped in a body of water. See, this sort of ghost makes sense. The world at large doesn't know how he actually died. He has a widow he left behind. People still wonder about his death. That's another classic horror story. What the hell is your deal, Frank? But anyway, Abby and I were out of ideas by then, so she called a friend of hers who came to visit us the next evening. She was a portly, energetic woman who, just like Abby sometimes, really kicked on the eyeshadow. She'd gone with like a goldenrod color, and with her dyed black hair, she looked... I don't even know. She looked unusual, but I don't mean that in an offensive way. We let her into my house, and the first thing she did was turn on a recording app on her phone, turn to me, and ask, "What's my name?" I don't know. Abby wouldn't tell me. I asked her not to. You can guess names for your ghost. I want to see if it works on the living. So what name feels right for me? That's kind of clever, I thought. I pondered. After looking at her for a bit, all I was getting was a partly goth vibe. Lilith? She spoke into her phone. Subject's ability only seems to extend to the dead, a possible indication of a locational haunting rather than a personal one. She hit a button, then smiled at me and greeted me. Not even close, by the way. It's Tiffany. How you really don't seem like Tiffany. I have been told. So let's sit down so I can ask some questions. Do you mind if I record some more? No. But what kind of questions? She basically had me retell the story again. She went through it with Abby as well. The first time I saw Frank, when Tina appeared, the Sherman fiasco, all of it. After that, she went through the house with a bunch of doohickeys that might be familiar to anyone who watches ghost hunting shows or plays with plasmophobia. I thought it was all pretty neat, but despite the 3 specters sitting in the room with me, I was dubious about their effectiveness. She had this one thing called an EMF reader that supposedly measures electromagnetic fields. It's believed ghosts cause fluctuations. She carried it through the house, and according to her, she got no readings until she returned to the living room, where she got steady readings, whatever that means, but only near Frank. Justin and Tina had no magnets or whatever. Next, Tiffany shined a purple flashlight over everything. It was supposedly an ultraviolet flashlight. Some people believe ghosts might leave traces that can only be seen in UV. As the light rolled over Tina, both Tiffany and Abby gasped. Did anyone else see that? I saw a shadow or something, and a splotch, Abby replied. Me too. Jack, did you see anything? All I saw was the light passing over Tina. Tiffany kept moving the light around, trying to recreate whatever effect she'd witnessed, but she didn't see anything again. Her last gizmos were both the most dubious and possibly the most successful. She called one box-like thing with an antenna the spirit box. According to her, it scans radio frequencies and allows ghosts to communicate. Why would ghosts use radio waves to communicate? She also had another little thing, a little box with some knobs, a speaker, and a digital screen. Even Tiffany seemed dubious about this one. She said it was like an ovilus. I don't know what that is, and that it was supposed to allow ghosts to electronically speak with a digital dictionary. How does that even work? How does it choose a word? I asked Tiffany about it, and she said, yeah, I have no idea. I think this one's bullshit too, but one time it said dead when I asked what's wrong. The couple who saw that happen are true believers now. I'm not entirely sure it doesn't just play words at random, but I figured I'd bring it. For the next hour or so, we sat together in the living room, listening to the spirit box spew a bunch of staticky electrical noise. Abby and Tiffany swore they heard things in the noise, but I didn't notice anything. The ovilus, however, might have given us something. I sat with Abby asking questions to the noisy static box. At one point, something like voices came through the noise. Abby and Tiff got super excited and started carrying the box around the room, trying to get a better signal. All the while, the ovilus just spewed words, seemingly at random, with its loud, unnerving robot voice. Box. Here. Foliage. Fall. None of it seemed to apply to me. Out of boredom, I got up and knelt down next to Frank. This all seems like bull to me, but as I knelt there and kept asking questions, I swear the ovilus suddenly became coherent. Why are you guys coming here? Escape. Escape from what? Why me? There was a long pause after this one. Special. Why am I the only one who sees you? Unknown. Did I get your names right? We. Who are you? Hide. How did I? The box cut me off. What about it? Coming. That one sent a chill through me. What is it? I never got an answer to that. The device went quiet for a few minutes before talking again, but I honestly couldn't tell if it was responding to questions or not. Over the next 15 minutes, it randomly blurted out these words. House. Special. Pray. Escape. Assist. Release. Hunt. After that, it stopped talking altogether. We didn't get anything more from the spirit box either. I wasn't entirely convinced that Tiffany's investigation wasn't all just random. Tiffany herself seemed to feel the same. Honestly, she's pretty cool. Abby, and I need to have her over for board game night at some point, but I digress. When we finished, she sighed. Well, as always, the evidence I've gathered just brings a whole lot of maybe, rather than anything definitive. There were some interesting things, though. I'm going to review everything and do a bit of research. I'll let you know if I come up with anything. Thanks for having me, guys. I never get to play with my cool ghost gadgets. We thanked her. That was 2 days ago. 2 things have happened since then. Firstly, a new body has appeared. This one is downright sinister. I first found it when I opened my oven to stick in some chicken. Sitting on the rack in a 375-degree oven was a severed head. It looks old, its hair is white stringy, and what remains of its flesh looks like burnt jerky. Its teeth were almost green in its mouth, and with its lips decayed and peeled away, it had a constant corpse grin. It's only got one dry, dead eye left. I swear the thing's always looking at me, even though I never see it move. Worst of all, unlike Frank, Tina, and Justin, this one moves. It never does it in a way that I can see, mind you. But for the last 2 days, I keep finding that creepy, severed head in weird, random places. I walk into my living room, and it's sitting on my couch. I go to the bathroom and find it sitting on the sink. I even found it in the fridge once. I haven't noticed any pattern or anything to its movements. It just sort of shows up. Always with that horrible grin, and always with its dead eye fixed on me. So that's really unnerving. The second thing that's happened. Tiffany thinks she's got a working theory after reviewing her findings. She found some noises while studying the sound files of her spirit box recording, and she sent me the files. Most of it sounded like animal growls, but there were a few that sounded like voices. One sounded like a woman saying, "I'm in the woods." Another sounded like a person. I think it's a man making strangled sounds. The last one definitely sounds like a man saying "get away," or maybe "got away." Based on this, and the device's repeated use of the words "it," "special," and "escape," Tiffany believes that for some reason the ghosts of murder victims are getting trapped in this house because it's special. They want help to escape. They appear to me because it's possible that I am special, to which I say I'm not. Leave me alone, ghosts. It's not a bad theory, but I have my doubts. I think she's right about the house being special, but after this severed head showed up, I don't think it is a place the spirits are trying to escape. I think it might be, I don't know, an entity. The reason I believe this is one more chilling detail about my new, decapitated resident. I can't think of a name for it. Okay, to hell with that thing. The head is kind of an asshole and a huge pervert. I also think it's trying to kill me. I keep finding it in compromising positions with the corpses. One evening I found it sitting on the floor right between Tina's legs, amid her ropey intestines, angled so it stared right up her skirt. Another time I found it lodged in the hole in her torso, staring out and grinning like a mischievous child. Another time I found it right next to Frank's head. It looked like it was making out with the crushed remains of his skull. If I were still a teenager, and these weren't damn cadavers, I might have found this darkly humorous. Hell, Abby laughed when I told her it was snuggling with Justin's bloated belly. But as it stands, it's just freaking me out. The damn thing just carries a sinister air with it. Every time I see it, I feel it in my gut. Cold, creeping, dread. As time's gone on, I feel like I'm dealing less with a precocious trickster and more with a psychopath, one that legitimately has no regard or respect for these spirits, and least of all for me. Just to make it worse, whenever Abby's over, it follows her to the bathroom or pops up when she's changing and other perverted things. I'm really glad she can't see it. I swear it's got a lecherous look in its eyes. When it's not creeping the shit out of me, it's popping up in front of me or behind me, I swear. It's like it's trying to jump and scare me. And it's working. It got me in the kitchen once, and I almost fell with a big cooking knife in my hand. I could have hurt or killed myself. I tried talking to it. What do you want? Are you trying to hurt me? Can you communicate? Etc. Etc. The jerk just stared at me, grinning like some undead Joker figure. Even worse, I swear it's affected the air in my house. It's freezing in there now. The only reason I haven't turned the heater on is because it's the middle of May and I can open a window or go outside if I'm cold. I'm also poor as shit. Another thing, I smell something. I swear I smell old cheese or something. It's faint, but I definitely smell it. It comes and goes, a faint sour whiff that slips in and slips out again. But it never truly goes away. We invited Tiffany out to try once more. Other than the abnormal cold, we literally got nothing. No voices from the spirit box, no words, and no fluctuations from the EMF reader. It's like all the spirits here have just gone quiet. A few nights ago, I hit my limit. I fell asleep a little early. I haven't been sleeping well, but I had an awful dream that someone was boring into my skull. I mean that figuratively, and very literally. Some cloaked figure was trying to drill into my temple with some kind of power tool, all the while moaning let me in as it tried to force itself into my freaking ear. 30. And that head was sitting on my nightstand, staring right at me, grinning away. At that point, I was just done. I was convinced this undead miscreant was now trying to possess me thanks to that dream, and I just couldn't bear the thought of staying in the house anymore. I called Abby, who told me I could come stay with her. I grabbed some clothes, some bathroom supplies, and I got the hell out. It was about midnight when I pulled into the parking lot of Abby's apartment building. Abby was there to greet me with a soothing hug. I just stood there, enjoying the comfort for a moment. We were interrupted by her phone buzzing in her pocket. Sorry, sometimes I game too long, so I have a midnight alarm to make sure I go to sleep, she exclaimed as she sheepishly silenced her device. Oh, hey, a horse. I looked where she was pointing. Sure enough, a black horse was clopping down the road, pulling a black carriage, being driven by a rider cloaked in black. Wow, that's a spooky horse, she added. I could only agree. When the horse passed beneath a streetlight, it looked otherworldly, though that might have been the carriage it was pulling, or the rider holding the reins. The carriage itself looked like something out of a funeral. The wheel spokes looked like bones, which seemed silly to me, and the dark wood just looked kind of like a huge coffin. The rider was a woman. She wore a black mask over her nose and mouth. She eyed Abby and I as she rode past, and even gave us a wave. She seemed polite enough, but in that carriage and wearing those robes she was wearing, she looked like she just stepped out of a gothic novel. She also kind of reminded me of the figure from my dreams. The carriage moved past us and stopped at an intersection a few streets away. At that point, I was done looking at it. Well, that was weird, I said. Think it's one of your ghosts? Abby asked with a laugh. God, I hope not. I don't know how to deal with spectral horse poop. Also, you could see it too, right? Yeah, I saw the creepy horse and carriage. Let's get you inside. Maybe being out of the haunted house will do you some good. Also, have you seen your therapist yet? I had not. I keep putting off my return visit to Mrs. Lang. I should really go give her an update. No, I keep canceling. First it was Sherman, then Tiffany. Please don't stop with the therapy, okay? For some reason, that night Abby's request felt like badgering insistence. Maybe it's just stress. I will, Abby, I snapped. I'm going through some shit is all. We almost got into an argument. All I ask is that you keep going. I almost retorted, but then I stopped to think. Abby didn't have to stick with me and let me stay over. She volunteered to, even after I started getting haunted by ghosts. The least I could do was look after myself. Sorry, I snapped. Oh well, I promise. She gave me another hug, and we headed inside. I got to meet her cat Whiskers, who was a mischievous but friendly little black and white short hair. He only needed to sniff me once before crawling into my lap. That lasted about 5 minutes, then it was bitey playtime. Thankfully, Abby shooed him away, and I actually got a decent night's sleep. It was glorious. No nightmares, no tension. None of that feeling I have of holy shit, there are ghost corpses in the other room. So now here I am feeling a lot better now that I'm away from that head whom I will refer to from here on out as Jerkface. I have no idea what to do now. I actually sat down and looked at some numbers. Selling the house and moving out isn't exactly feasible for me right now. So eventually, I need to solve this. Maybe I should just hire an exorcist. Either way, tomorrow I'll be heading back. I do have a strange feeling of foreboding after being gone. What sort of mischief will Jerkface get up to on a night when I'm not there to torment? Oh, God. Oh shit, I am outside my house right now. Just close enough for the Wi-Fi. Things were bad enough when we woke up to find a madhouse in the streets outside. I saw flashing lights up at that intersection where the horse and carriage was. It was a huge accident. No idea what happened or if someone died, but it took us an hour just to leave the parking lot and drive a few blocks for breakfast. When we finally reached my house, I was hopeful. Abby and I checked it out. As usual, she didn't see anything, but oh shit, I did. The first thing I noticed when I opened the door was that I couldn't see Tina's upper half in my hallway like I normally could. There was just a dry blood stain where she usually lay. Well, are they gone? I ran in excitedly, with Abby close behind me. One little hope I had faded quickly. Frank and Justin are lying right where they always were, but I couldn't find Jerkface. He was nowhere to be found until I opened the basement and turned on the light. There I found a nightmare. Dozens of bodies, all in varied states of dress and decay, lay in a massive round pile on the floor, just a few meters from the stairs. Despite being just as still as Frank, I swear they were all writhing in agony. Those that had faces, expressed pain or fear, they lay to die staring blankly, rotted hands reaching for the ceiling. Perched on top of this disgusting pillar of death was none other than Jerkface himself. I swear it almost looked like he was smirking at me from his throne. He had something I didn't recognize clutched in his teeth. I took 1 second to take a closer look, before I bolted from the basement in terror. It was Tina's cheerleading skirt. I have no idea what's going on in my house, but I think I need to take another day off for 10. It's Jack. Abby had a weird experience. She insisted on telling you all herself. Hey everyone, this is Abby. Jack will fill you in some more when I'm done, but I have a story to tell, and I'm fairly certain it's relevant. It started 3 days ago. Jack's been in and out of my apartment. He's afraid to go back to his house, and frankly, I don't blame him. He's lucky he's cute and funny. But anyway, I still can't see the bodies in his house, but I'm pretty sure I saw Jerkface. That first day, when Jack was looking in the basement, just seconds after he screamed and bolted up the stairs, I happened to catch sight of my reflection in a shiny oven, and there was something on the table staring at me. It was absolutely hideous, and honestly it gave off the same vibes as Sherman, only ramped up to 11. It was this gross little rotten skull with this grin on its face and a girl's skirt dangling from its mouth. I whipped my head towards the table, but nothing was there. We both decided to get the hell out at that point. We passed through the hallway, and again, I swear I saw a head in the reflection of the mirror on the wall, the look it was giving me. With its one-eye made me very uncomfortable. We left and drove back to my apartment in silence. The traffic there was finally starting to clear, but it still took 10 minutes longer than it should have. I asked Jack what he saw when he was ready, and he told me about the pile of bodies, and that Tina was missing, and that the Jerkface had had her skirt in its teeth. I shuddered. I'm ashamed to say I didn't tell Jack right away that I saw the head too. I was scared. I was on board with being supportive to my boyfriend while he dealt with some shit, but now that I saw it too, it suddenly felt more real. We were both late for work that day, and I went through it in a bit of a haze. At some point, the insidious question entered my mind. Can I handle this? It stuck with me all day. That night I got home and let Jack into my house, and we tried a game a bit together. My head just wasn't in it, Jack's wasn't either. I kick his ass at Fortnite, but he's usually at least a decent challenge. At around 11, we were both done. I told him I needed a bit of space and that I was going for a walk. I could tell I'd hurt him, that sucked. I didn't kick him out of the house, mind you. I just kind of wanted to be alone and grab a drink. So I armed myself with pepper spray, walked to a nearby bar, and started ordering cocktails. Before I knew it, my midnight go-to-bed alarm was going off. I was getting pretty tipsy after my third Mai Tai. I pulled out my wallet to see if I could afford another one, but before I could, someone slapped down some strange-looking coins while signaling the barkeeper. Curious, I looked up. It was the carriage rider woman from the night before. She was wearing the same robes. She slipped off her mask and smiled at me before pulling up a chair to sit with me. "Hey, you're the carriage rider, right?" She smiled and nodded. She was pretty. She had a broad-shouldered, athletic build, and she looked a bit pale, but she had a smooth, girlish face and emerald green eyes. She tucked her dark hair behind her ear as she got herself settled. The bartender arrived and scooped up her weird silver coins. "The usual, Shaylee?" The woman nodded before pointing to me. The bartender nodded and said she wants to buy you a drink. "What do you have?" It took me a second to realize the bartender was talking to me. I might have gotten a little flustered. I've had people try to buy me drinks before, but never a lady in a mostly empty bar. I wasn't quite sure what to do. Was this flirty or friendly drink buying? Oh, I looked at the benefactor. She leaned back, an eyebrow raised, and somehow I just understood. She was being friendly. It was still pretty strange, and normally I'd be creeped out. Actually, I was pretty creeped out, but I just didn't care enough. I wanted more alcohol. How about Long Island?" "You got it," replied the bartender. Come to think of it, I didn't recognize him. He must be a new guy. The guy was so smooth-skinned, he could have been a child, but he sure was built like a man. I shook it off and turned to the carriage rider, who was eyeing me thoughtfully. "Thanks, I'm Abby." The woman sort of bowed her head. "And was it Shaylee?" She nodded. "Well, thank you, Shaylee. I think I could use another drink." "What brings you here?" She held up a finger as if to say, "Hold on," before dragging her thumb across her neck. I noticed she was wearing a pretty black choker with some pretty designs in the leather. You hurt your neck?" She sort of nodded before gesturing to her open mouth and shaking her head. "You can't talk." She snapped her fingers and nodded. Bingo. The bartender returned with our drinks then, my Long Island, and a big pint of dark beer for my new mute friend. Guinness, maybe. He also set down a pencil and a pad of paper for her. That was very perceptive of him, but they seemed to know one another. I stole another glance at the bartender. I swear that guy was smooth. He could be a frickin' Tolkien elf. Shaylee waved to him before taking a long, impressive swig of her drink. Then she wrote something and slid her pad towards me. I read it as I sipped at my cocktail. It read, "Why are you drinking alone?" "Oh, I'm not looking for her." She cut me off with a wave of her hand and looked at me again. Her green eyes held curiosity. "Sorry," I said. "I'm used to talking people out of hitting on me at the bar." She smirked and silently laughed at that. Then she wrote something else. It said, "I totally get it, but you were with someone." Trouble. I sat there, trying to figure out what to say and if I should say it. "Well, it's not that I don't like him. I want to stay. It's just we're dealing with some very unusual drama." Shaylee cocked her head, asking me to continue. I have no idea how to explain this. It's more his business than mine. She nodded in understanding before scribbling. "I can handle weird things. I ride in a spooky carriage. If you want, you can talk to me." I think it was the alcohol, but for whatever reason, I told her everything I knew, everything Jack had told me, how he saw things I couldn't, how I'd seen enough that I actually believed it was real, how I seemed to inadvertently step over unseen corpses every time I'm in his living room, how we found names for some of them, how we tried to detect them and communicate with them with my friend Tiffany, and how now something more sinister had arrived. Something that actively stalked his house, scaring Jack, apparently perving on me, and now eating the other spirits or something. I also mentioned that I think I can see the little jerk face too. Shaylee sat drinking down Guinness and nodding thoughtfully. Who knew? You people make great listeners. Do we think I might be a shitty person? Finally, I sucked down the last of my cocktail and finished spilling my guts. Can I handle this? Having a human stalker was bad enough. Can I handle getting involved with a ghost stalker? Out of nowhere, the smooth-skinned bartender appeared. He set another drink down, a delicious-looking frosty strawberry daiquiri with whipped cream, everything in the house. May I be so bold as to offer a few words? If you're giving me this delicious thing, you can say anything. Well, not anything, but yes, you can talk. He chuckled at my slightly tipsy response. That should be your last, I think. But based on what I heard, there's no shame in leaving if you feel overwhelmed. He stood by you when your ex broke in, sure, but that doesn't mean you owe him. But here's the thing, it doesn't sound like he wants you to owe him. And it sounds like you don't want to leave, even if you did. The man had a voice like musical honey. I let his words ring in my ears as I pondered them. Maybe I'm tipsy, but I think you're right. Thank you, smooth, honey-tongued stranger. You are indeed tipsy, but that's okay. No more after that one. I took a long swig of my delicious daiquiri, giving myself a brain freeze naturally, before turning to my silent companion. She was busy scribbling something. I tried to lean over and read, but she covered it up. So I sat, sipping my sugary drink. When it was all gone, I made up my mind. Jack's a great guy. I'll stick with him. I hope the creepy head thing isn't always part of the package. Shaylee looked up at me and smiled. She tore a scrap off her pad and scribbled down, "It won't." How do you know? Are you some kind of severed head expert? She shrugged and looked away in an exaggeratedly embarrassed manner, as if to say, maybe. She scribbled down one more thing. It said, "Give this to Jack. It will help you both." She slipped a folded up paper into my palm, then gave my hand a brief squeeze before getting up and walking out the door. Her exit was very abrupt. "Why don't I walk you home?" It was a smooth man. I trusted him to be a gentleman, but I have no idea why. "What about the bar?" "It's been closed since 8. I've just been hanging around." "Why?" "What? Don't worry. The barkeeps have been paid. Let's get you home." He calmly guided me through the streets. Thankfully, I wasn't so drunk I was stumbling or anything, but it was nice to not have to walk home alone at night. When we reached my building, he took his leave. "Will you make it up the stairs?" "I'm not that tipsy. By the way, that was the best daiquiri I've ever had." "Thanks, but what's your name?" I turned to him, and he was just gone. There weren't any trees nearby, and there's no way he made it around the corner that fast. That was pretty creepy, so I hustled inside and got into bed. The next morning, Jack and I talked about everything that happened, and I confessed my love for him again. He just hugged me. We read Shaylee's note together. It was cryptic, to say the least. This is what it said, Jack and Abby. "You've fallen into an otherworldly situation. Your house is warded against some things, but not others. Some sought sanctuary within. You can see them. That gave them hope and even strength. But their strength drew in the others. One managed to slip past the wards. It's dangerous, but it can't hurt you while it's incomplete. Gold will ward it off, but you have to expel it. You don't have to do it alone, but it'll cost something precious to you. You be wise to find the names of the rest of the dead in your home. Also, totally unrelated, you two make a really cute couple." The note ended. I'm not sure what to make of any of this. The disappearing bartender, the mute carriage rider with the weird coins, the fact that I apparently wandered into a closed bar and nobody noticed. It's all very strange. Accepting the ghost was tough enough. Were those two people human? It's Jack again. I'm not sure what to make of Abby's tale either. Not that I don't believe her. I've got a teleporting head on a throne of dead people in my basement. A weird trip to the bar is nothing. I'm more interested in how the Shaylee seems to know about any of this. Is she really trying to help? What if she's setting a trap? And what does she mean by a price? Something precious? I don't know. I appreciate the advice we've gotten, and I'll see how Jerkface reacts to gold. But Shaylee sounds a bit Faustian. Up yours, you little shit. Okay, Shaylee was right. Jerkface is afraid of gold for some reason. I think we got rid of him. Screw you, you little spectral asshat. Now I can fix my basement window and put my house back together and figure out what to do with all these corpses. With all that said, let me back up. It's been about a week since Abby's trip to the bar. Neither of us have seen the mysterious rider or carriage since then. I did some digging. Our region doesn't have horse-drawn carriage as an attraction. Now, in order to ride a horse-drawn carriage, You need to register for various things with the city, and nobody's on file. So either Shaylee is something otherworldly, or she's riding illegally. I suppose she could be both, too. Either way, it's kind of sketchy. All the same, we took her advice. Abby lent me some gold jewelry of hers. I put on all the rings and the gold necklace chain before returning to my house once more. Even though I went in the morning on a bright sunny day, it was downright eerie in there. The door creaked ominously as I pushed it open and stared into the darkened halls. It was cold there. I could actually see my breath in places. The blood stains on the floor didn't help either. I made my way into the living room, where I discovered that Justin had now vanished, leaving behind a black substance in the carpet. Frank was there, but he looked even more dead than usual. I actually stopped to take a look, because I could just see that something was different. He looked more decayed. Pieces of him were missing, mostly the skull fragments. Was Jerkface actually eating him? Abby put a hand on my shoulder, which gave me a bit more courage. I made my way to the basement and I threw open the door. A blast of even colder air hit Abby and I. She shivered and wrapped her arms around herself. Okay, you want to wait here? Nah, I'll come with you. You feel that, right? The cold. Yes, but something else. Also that smell. Old cheese? Yeah. Does it always smell like that? Not at first. It's gotten stronger. It's freaking me out that I can sense it more. I put a hand on her shoulder and hoped it was as reassuring as hers was. Me too. You still don't see Frank? No. Your carpet looks completely clean to me. I really wish I knew why only I can see these bodies, but she can sense Jerkface. Jerkface is something different. We steeled ourselves and descended into the dank cold of the basement. The pile of bodies was right where I left it, and there was Jerkface sitting on top, but he wasn't grinning this time. His dried lips had somehow curled into an angry snarl, and his normally milky white eye now possessed an oversized black pupil that fixed itself on me. A few things happened next. First, Abby grabbed hold of my arm and let out a cry of fright. I see it, Jack. I see the head. She called as she clung to me. Then Jerkface did something I've never seen him do before. He moved. It was subtle. The pupil in his eye shifted focus from me over to Abby. I saw the movement clear as day, and I almost jumped out of my skin. I tried and failed to be brave. I stumbled back, away from the horrid thing that was now breaking its own rules. Somehow I managed to hold up the hands wearing all the gold rings, and Jerkface Beatty, I flitted back to me, and I swear its scowl intensified. After a few tense moments, Abby nudged me, and we both took a step forward. Time to leave. I managed to stutter out. Jerkface remained still, aside from its eye, which flitted around like a buzzing fly, pointing from me to Abby, to the gold rings, and back to me again. I summoned up my courage and took another step forward, and all hell broke loose. Abby and I both watched in fascination and horror as the severed head we called Jerkface lifted itself into the air. Its mouth dropped open to silently scream at us for a moment before it sailed around us, up the stairs and out of sight. The head flies, Abby said in disbelief. After a few moments of silence, I winced when I heard a crash from upstairs. We both ran up and found the rotting head sailing around like a caged animal, smacking into walls and furniture and knocking over pretty much everything. It broke vases and knocked over my shelf of video games, and most egregiously, it destroyed my little shrine to Godzilla. I've amassed a decent collection of figures of the big guy, and not all of them were plastic. When I watched the Godzilla coffee mug crash to the floor and shatter, it was the last damn straw. For roughly a quarter of an hour, I chased that little asshole through my house trying to force it away from valuables and hurled it out the window. Naturally, it refused to leave. Or maybe it couldn't. Abby opened the front door and all the windows she could, but it refused to fly through them. Somehow we ended up chasing it back downstairs, where it opened the door to a closet with its teeth and sailed inside. I ran in after it, then breathed a sigh of relief. Jerkface was gone. There's a small basement window in this closet, and it had been shattered. For whatever reason, it didn't mind exiting through this one. By the look of the water stains and glass on the floor, this window had likely been shattered for a while. I have a feeling this is how Jerkface got in the house in the first place. Somehow I hadn't noticed one of the windows was broken while I was mowing the lawn for the past 3 weeks. To be fair, it's obscured by a window well on the outside. But anyway, the point is Jerkface left the same way I shut the door to that closet, and left the gold chain on the doorknob. I hope that's enough to keep that little asshole out. The effects of him leaving were immediate. First off, the cold throughout the house began to dissipate. I could literally feel the warmth coming back. Secondly, the pile of bodies scattered themselves. Most of them were kind enough to lay themselves out in the basement, but a few appeared upstairs with Frank. There are some pretty grotesque-looking figures. Some are broken, some are burned, some aren't much more than bones. One poor guy had a freaking pole through his skull. I spent some time looking at them all. In total, I have 15 bodies in my house now. I think I have names for all of them, but Abby and I still need to confirm them. Finally, Justin and Tina are back in their old places. As weird as it sounds, I'm kinda glad. They look like they've been through the ringer. Tina's skirt is back, but it definitely looks like an animal had been chewing on it, and she just looks grayer, more desiccated. It's hard to explain. I'm not saying they look like they've decomposed more. That would actually make sense. I'm saying they look less. I don't know. I honestly don't know what Jerkface was doing with these souls. We spent the rest of the day picking up the mess Jerkface made at my house. He broke several picture frames, a bunch of dishes, and he knocked the 2 or 3 plants I have over. I panicked a little when I couldn't find the centerpiece of my Godzilla shrine. It may not seem special, it's just an old, cheaply made plastic Godzilla toy. His eyes are crudely painted, and his lips are red for some reason. But that shitty little toy with a broken tail is my oldest toy. I had it back in grade school. I found it across the room with a plant on top of it. You'll pay for that one Jerkface. A few days later, my house was back in order. Well, aside from the corpses, Abby got Tiffany to help us do some research. We've confirmed names for most of the bodies in my house. There's Thomas Jane, a stockbroker who'd been hit by a car after he stumbled out of a party. There's Genevieve Williams, an engineer who'd left a party only to be killed by her own boyfriend in a drunken rage. There's Decker Bentley, another stockbroker who'd left a party and crashed into a fence after swerving to avoid a drunk driver. That's the guy with a pipe through his head. There's more, but I don't need to list them all. There's only one thing all of them have in common, with a possible exception of Justin, and that's that they were all at or leaving parties late at night before they died. Most of them are from nearby. Only 3 died out of state, and all of them are only in the next state over. Some are murder victims and some aren't. Only Tina and Justin have any mystery to their deaths. Frank is the most recent. He died only 2 years ago. The oldest so far died in the early 90s. Other than this, nothing new has happened since we chased out the jerk. I've gotten my window replaced, and then I hung the gold chain to the side of it. Tiffany has come over to try her ghost tool some more. She says she's got some interesting readings, but we've talked and we've all agreed that somehow Jerkface was at the center of this. Tiffany came up with a working theory. First off, we know that Jerkface is afraid of gold, seems to collect the dead, and as far as we know, it's just a severed head. The fact that my house prevented it from entering got Tiffany thinking. She brought over a metal detector and started using it on the walls. She found something in a spot where we're pretty sure there aren't any vents. She then unscrewed a power outlet and fed one of those little cameras on a tube into my wall. We found the bottom of some sort of metal object seemingly nailed to the wooden beams. She determined that it was an iron horseshoe. According to old Irish and Celtic legends, iron repels fairies, so it was customary in some places to hang a horseshoe on the wall to prevent any mischievous entities from entering. Apparently, the previous owners were a superstitious group. Lucky for me. So, Jerkface is some sort of Celtic fairy being, but Tiffany got it nailed down further. According to old legends, anyone who heard the wails of a banshee will be visited by a coach, pulled by a black horse, driven by a rider without a head. This being carried a human spine in one hand and its own severed head in the other. Its face was hideous, with a grin that spread from ear to ear. They collect the souls of the dead and carry them away in their coach. They call this being the Dullahan. Innocents could sometimes encounter this being if they were out roads at midnight. If they encountered it, they could drive it away with gold, which would make it disappear. But those foolish enough to watch it for too long were in danger of having their eyes whipped out by the spine they carry, or having a bucket of blood thrown at them. From here on out, I'll be assuming that Jerkface is a Dullahan, or at least the head of a Dullahan. But where's the rest of it? Those bits about the creepy coach and black horse, those sound more like Shaylee, but she still has her head, or at least we think so. Abby now believes the choker Shaylee wore could have been keeping her head on, like that one old story about the woman with a ribbon around her neck. Abby pointed out that every time she saw Shaylee, it was midnight. Is Shaylee also a Dullahan? What are a pair of Irish death fairies doing in Middle America? What is Jerkface doing to these souls? It doesn't seem like he's taking them anywhere. They're all from relatively close by. And why does Shaylee seem to want to help? Well, an old friend just came to visit. I was distracted from my writings by a frightened squeak from Abby. She was pointing out the window behind me. I turned my head, and there was Jerkface a few feet away, perched on a ledge outside my window. His grin was wider than ever. I sat there aghast as that horrible life flitted between us. And then long spidery fingers, literally made out of only bone and gristle, lifted the top of the skull up. A figure that apparently had been squatting down on my freaking azaleas rose to its feet. It had to be 6.5 feet tall, and that's without a freaking head. It wore dark ratty leather that failed to cover the fact that the body beneath was mostly rotted meat and bone, yet somehow it caught a hulking and imposing figure. It raised up the head we called Jerkface so it could continue to ominously stare at us. "Hey guys, I think I found." "Oh my god," Tiffany said as she entered the room. It seemed she could see the headless skeletal revenant outside my window too. Seconds ticked by intense silence, and slowly, the window began to fog up as if it were icy cold out there. Soon, we could only barely make out that horrible grin. Our hearts leapt to our throats when we saw the movie. Then something touched the glass. It was the creature's finger. Slowly, it began dragging its finger along the surface of the window. It created a scratching sound, like stone, as it moved. I think it really is all bone. Finally, I realized it was writing something in the fog. It was written backwards in English, so we could read it from our side. Words won't keep me out forever. The souls are mine. Give them to me, and you won't see them or me ever again. Otherwise, face my wrath. There was a pause before the scratching finished with all of you. It concluded this by underlining that last line several times. The thing is kinda dramatic, but I guess you can be when you're a 6-foot headless zombie monster. I'm 90% sure that if I give it to the bodies, how the hell would I even do that? It would just try to kill me anyway. I don't think I should trust it, but all I really want is for my house to be a damned house where I can settle in, build a happy relationship with my girlfriend, and just live my life. If it's the truth, this could all be over. But I don't think I can do it. Tina saved us, but I think Abby, Tiffany, and I are going to talk this over. Why did I just ignore this? I could have just waited another month for a different house to come up. Shit, I just let shit happen. Even when I know it's gonna hurt me, I should really make an appointment with my therapist. Spare a thought for Shaylee, the Dullahan. She's a quiet lady who opted to do very lonely work. She has a long trip home ahead of her. I don't think she likes humans very much, but that doesn't stop her from doing her duty. I wish her the best, and I hope my old friend keeps her company. If you see her, try not to stare. It's not safe. Things came to a bloody crescendo 3 days ago, but now things are winding down. I'm still coming to terms with all of it. Abby has decided to move in with me when her lease is up. She started slowly moving her stuff over. Whiskers like it here. He sniffs at the place where the bodies were. I wonder if he can sense something, but I'm way too far ahead of myself. I should tell you all what happened. After Jerkface arrived with his threat, Abby, Tiffany, and I discussed what we should do at length. We all considered it, but in the end rejected that thing's proposal. Whatever it was doing to these bodies, it was definitely having a negative effect on them. As much as I want them all gone, I'm not giving them to a monster based on our research. They were just regular people, saints and sinners alike. Jerkface made it clear it had little regard for them other than, as it said, those souls are mine. But once we'd made that decision, the next one was the hard one. What do we do? Tiffany slept on my couch that night. I wouldn't want to go outside after seeing that thing either. The next day, we all had to call off work. I looked out the window and found that Jerkface never left. It stood there in the middle of my backyard with its head under its arm, staring in at us. For some reason, I was the only one that could see it. Abby and Tiff saw it before, but not now. It just stood there, barely moving. The sunlight made parts of its meaty hide glisten. Scared as she was, Tiffany was excited. I spent my whole life hoping for a hint of something supernatural. I'm a skeptic, but I don't want to be a damn skeptic. I want to find ghosts. You got one. I just need to record it somehow. I couldn't blame her. If this shit was happening to me, I find it fascinating too. I let her set up a camera that pointed at Jerkface and then walked her to her car. She drove off for supplies. She was back a few hours later with more recording devices. I ran out with all the gold on me to help her, and when we got back, the jerk had vanished. The flowers might have worked, Tiffany said. She guided me to her trunk. Hey, marsh marigolds, they're supposed to keep the fae away, too. I can't say for sure if it was the flowers that scared off the jerk, but I wasn't going to turn down the extra protection. We put them under my windows. All three of us spent the rest of the day going over everything we knew we were trying to prepare. We just had no real idea what we were preparing for. The corpses just lay there, as devoid of answers as ever. I went into the basement and just shouted at them for help. You know, Tina managed to move when she wanted. Why can't the rest of you help? After a minute of that, I burst out laughing. It was all pretty absurd. Here I was, yelling at the bodies, only I can see about pulling their weight in the fight against the magical, headless death fairy that runs from shiny objects. This is my life now, because I didn't have the guts to say no when there was something weird about a house. As I sat there stewing for just a second, I swore I felt something. It was the same sort of feeling I got when Abby laid a comforting hand on my shoulder. It was apologetic, thankful, sympathetic, and almost sheepish all at once. I didn't feel it physically, but I felt it all around me at the same time. And then it was gone. Was that just in my head, or were the spirits here telling me, sorry, we're putting you through this? Why am I certain that most of that feeling came from Frank upstairs before I knew it? Night had fallen, and suddenly everything became eerie and foreboding again. It was a warm summer evening, but all the same a cold mist seemed to rise from the earth. It curled around bushes, cars, and mailboxes, and made pretty much every innocent shadow briefly look like a prowling monster. We ate dinner in silence and kept an uneasy vigil on both sides of my yard. At some point past 10, the power to the whole freaking neighborhood went out. Oh shit, Abby, Tiffany, and I said it together. I used my phone's light to seek out my candles and flashlights, but before I could find them, a sound like the crack of a whip came from somewhere outside. It was followed by the sound of a pot shattering. We heard the crack again, then again. Many more times, all around my house. I think it's attacking the plant pots, Abby whispered. Even if it kills him, it can't get in, right? I said back, the legend says no, but I honestly don't know. It's a legend. Who knows what's true, and what isn't? Tiffany replied. We cowered closer when we heard the whip crack once again. Can we call for help? Abby asked. We all scrambled for our phones, but like every horror movie ever, even with 5G and a solid plan giving me unlimited access data, all of our phones were mysteriously non-functional. There was nothing any of us could do to contact the outside. You gotta be kidding me. That thing's like 100 years old. How the hell does it know how to interfere with cell phones? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just affects things like this, Tiffany suggested. For hours, whatever was outside kept cracking its whip, keeping us nice and terrified. It stopped breaking pots after the first 10 minutes. After that, it seemed to just be smacking at the walls. I think it's trying to knock the horseshoes down. Tiffany stated. What can we do? I asked. I don't know. I found myself staring at Frank and Tina. I remembered how I felt in the basement. I also remembered how quickly Jerkface ran when I brandished gold at him. No more letting this shit happen, I thought. Abby, give me the gold. Please don't go out there. I have to. I could have avoided all of this if I just said no when I saw the body. But then they wouldn't be getting your help. Why? Quiet you. I'm having a personal epiphany. I'm not letting this jerk tear my house apart. It's afraid of gold, right? If it starts swinging its whip at me, I'll come back inside. Check. I didn't let her finish. I became every male cliche ever as I grabbed up the gold jewelry and charged outside to face my oppressor. Listen, jerk, this is my house. You aren't welcome here, and I'm not letting you abuse the ghost. I stepped off the back patio with my gold-clad hand held as high as my pride. Jack, Abby whispered from behind me. Shaylee said it couldn't hurt you while it was incomplete. That means it can now. Get back inside. Oh shit, that's a good point. Were the thoughts my brain was putting together, but before they even finished, I was face down in the dirt with the back of my head throbbing in pain. Something had hit me hard enough that I saw stars. I managed to roll over and caught a brief glimpse of the silhouette on my roof, a massive, headless humanoid squatting down like an animal with a bony whip in its hand. Its head was tucked under its other arm. The gleam from some eldritch light shimmered off its one eye, making it glimmer in the darkness. It raised its arm, preparing to crack its whip across my head again, but Abby came out of nowhere and threw something at it. Whatever it was caused the fiend to scramble away, tripping over itself as it went. Abby squatted down to help me up. I shook off my daze as best I could and scrambled to my feet. Before we could make it back to safety, the ghoul dropped in front of us, cutting us off. Get to the front. We heard Tiffany yell from behind the thing. We bolted as quickly as we could. I felt the wind of the whip, and I heard its thunderous crack from inches away from my head as I rounded the first corner. I've never run like that in my life. Abby rounded the next corner first. I came tearing around it seconds later, only to find the fiend leaping off the roof, landing on my girlfriend. I didn't think so. I kept my momentum going and screamed at the top of my lungs as I barreled right into it. It felt like running headlong into a brick wall, but to my credit, we both rolled away from Abby. I don't know if anyone else has thrown themselves at a decaying body. It's not something I would recommend. The outside was squishy, disgusting, and stank of moldy cheese, but the base beneath that may as well have been a pylon. The only reason it moved away was the gold on my hand. It scrambled away from me, trying to regain its composure, while Abby and I half crawled, half ran towards the front door. We were so close. Tiffany threw open the door to let us in, but that thing, it moved with unnatural speed. It appeared on the porch and kicked the door closed. I heard it smack poor Tiffany in the nose. Abby and I plowed into the outside next. Then a bony hand grabbed my shirt and effortlessly lifted me off my feet. I didn't have time to struggle. It hurled me onto the lawn. The wind got knocked from my lungs. A few seconds later, Abby was thrown on top of me, emptying my lungs again. I think she elbowed me in the head a second later as she tried to get back up. I was pretty out of it by then, so out of it, all I really noticed was that Abby's hip was vibrating. Is that her phone? It must be midnight, I thought. Then I got distracted again. I heard a friggin' horse. I finally shook myself out of my stupor and gazed back towards the road. A familiar coach sat at the end of my driveway. I watched a pale, almost luminous figure leap off of the driver's seat. I looked back at our attacker. He'd stopped his assault. He held his head so he could stare at the coach, even in the dark. I saw its horrible grin begin to fade. The pale figure strolled up the driveway and stopped to bend over and lift me up and place me back on my feet. Abby gripped my arm. I glanced towards her and saw she was smiling. Before I could stop her, she said, "Shaylee, you're here. Help us. We'll pay." Shaylee grinned and nodded, never taking her eyes off of the undead jerk. Silently, she pointed towards my house. She didn't need to say anything. I knew what she meant. Abby and I bolted inside and spent the next 10 minutes gasping for breath as we watched events unfold outside. Before anyone says it to me, I'm going to go ahead and admit that going outside was a really stupid thing to do. And I'm very, very sorry, I gasped as we glued ourselves to the window. Abby's only response was a light smack to the back of my head. Shaylee and Jerkface stared each other down like a pair of cowboys about to duel. Despite standing a foot taller than her, without a head, Jerkface actually appeared, worried. I was musing on this, when suddenly both of them moved. Jerkface raised his arm to crack his whip at Shaylee, who responded by ripping off her cloak and hurling it at him before darting away. The garment threw off his aim and distracted him. He finally tore it away and charged after her into the dark. You think she can beat him? Tiffany asked. I mean, she's not falling apart like he is, Abby replied. True, but he's huge. Also, who is she? Is that Shaylee? Yeah. Why is she helping us, I wonder? I told her we'd pay, Abby said. Wait, you told her you'd pay her what? I don't know, Abby replied. The color drained from Tiffany's face. You agreed to something with a fat without knowing what it is. Yeah, we needed help. She just said it would be something precious. Abby, that could be anything. She might make you pay with your life or Jack's life. Abby went pale then, as did I. The terrified silence hung in the air before it was shattered by the crack of whips somewhere in the distance. The two beings' battle seemed to take them all over the neighborhood. We only caught glimpses of them in the darkened streets, a shadow here, the sounds of a whip or glass shattering there, and at one point a car alarm went off somewhere in the neighborhood. Guys? I asked after a tense 15 minutes. They both looked at me. I can't believe this is real. Maybe it was my head wound, but I was having some sort of existential crisis. Ghosts were hard enough to accept, but these two things, this is not the world I thought I was living in. We'll get through this. That was comforting, but it wasn't the point. Even if we do, they'll still be out there. It's really hard to accept that the world is far different than you think it is. Actually slumped away from the front window and sat between Tina and Frank. This shit's crazy, I whispered to nobody in particular. I got a response this time. The same sensation from the basement, just a feeling. Empathy, sorrow, and a new one. I can only describe it as the desire to fix. Imagine you just heard a passionate speech from a reformed inmate who planned to make up for all of their mistakes. Furthermore, imagine you aren't skeptical about how serious they are, if you can imagine that feeling. That's basically what I felt. Then, I suddenly knew what I had to do. I got up and ran to the other room, lighting the way with my phone. I grabbed the list of names we'd made of all the ghosts in my house. I scanned through it. Some of them were wrong, or at least spelled wrong. For some reason, I knew that mattered. I ran into the basement. I looked at every corpse until I was sure I had their name right. Abby and Tiffany screamed above me. Apparently, Jerkface had reappeared. I kept working. I heard whips cracking outside. I think I heard one of my windows break, but I ignored that. I had to be sure the names were right. Finally, I was sure. I ran up the stairs. Jack, I think the rotting one is winning, Abby said fearfully. Have you seen Shaylee? I replied. She's with her carriage right now. She looks hurt. I don't see Jerkface. Abby, I 100% promise that I will not make a habit of charging into danger. I get it if you aren't okay with this, but there's something I have to do. Once again, I sprinted out the front door, ignoring any cries of protest. I flung it closed behind me and bolted for the carriage. I used my phone's light to find Shaylee. She was a mess. Her hair was wild. She had lots of bruises and 2 deep gashes, one on her arm and the other across her cheek. She was startled by me when I approached, and she almost attacked me. She had a whip made of a human spine, just like Jerkface's. I knelt down next to her and shoved the paper into her free hand. It's their names, I said. A small, almost mischievous smile appeared on her face. Next thing I knew, Shaylee was on her feet. She leapt inhumanly high, landing on top of her carriage. I watched in horrified fascination as she casually pulled her own head right off her neck. Her choker marked where it left. She held her own cranium high above her shoulders, and some kind of transformation occurred. Shaylee looked human before, but now her pale flesh almost literally glowed. Her eyes turned black, and her face became a grin almost as wide and horrific as Jerkface's. Looking upon her now, it was clear that whatever she was, it wasn't, and had never been human. And then she spoke. Well, her severed head spoke. Her voice was like thunder. Franklin Chaplin. The sound was deafening. She paused for a few seconds before starting again. Tina Pulowski. Another pause. Justin Taylor. She kept going. She spoke a name, she paused, and she spoke another name. I watched her. It was hard to take my eyes away. Then I remembered I shouldn't be watching. The Dollahans attack people who watch. So I looked away, and I found Jerkface right behind me. How is something so big so quiet? Whatever damage he'd done to Shaylee, she'd given back to him threefold. The bones in his chest were cracked, he seemed to be missing a leg, and the ratty leather he wore was even more shredded. He appeared to have lost his whip, but that gave him a free hand. He used it to reach out and grab my gold hand with an icy cold grip. I was helpless. He raised his head with his other hand to point it at me and stare hatefully. He straight up bludgeoned me with his own severed head. I went out like a light. I was only dimly aware, but I could still hear Shaylee's voice reading off names. A crushing weight came down on my chest. I opened my eyes, and Jerkface had his knee on me, pinning me down. He raised his arm up. I could see triumph in his eyes. He was going to kill me and punish me for ruining whatever he was doing. But then a bloated pair of arms wrapped around that arm and yanked it back. In shock, Jerkface dropped his head. His body struggled against his assailant, but then another leapt on him. Then another. I squinted. Something didn't seem right about the people jumping on him. They all looked rotted, like zombies. More arrived, and soon I couldn't see anything but a tangled mass of rotting flesh. Someone's arms reached under my own and dragged me away from the tangled mess. Soon, I was looking up at a cloudy night sky. I tried to look over at my savior and found another ghoul staring back. One with a familiar head wound that made it look like half his head was gone. I finally snapped myself out of my gaze and looked up. Frank gave me a nod. Then Tina, who crawled next to him, set her withered hand on my own before they both advanced towards the struggling pile of the dead. All of the bodies that had been lying motionless in my house were now attacking. It didn't matter how withered or broken they were. They crawled, shambled, and dragged themselves towards Jerkface and swarmed over him. I looked up at Shaylee. She'd finished her list. She spoke again. Your times came long ago, but first take back what is yours. The ghosts redoubled their efforts, and the headless revenant disappeared beneath their clawing, rotten hands. I looked away. My head was throbbing from multiple blows. I wondered briefly if I had a concussion. When I looked back, the corpses were gone. In their place were very normal-looking people. A young man stepped towards me, smiling as he reached down, and he helped me to my feet. I recognized him by his office wear. Sorry for the trouble. Thanks for your help. You're Frank? Yeah, I can't tell you much. He glanced up at the specter that was Shaylee, who kept her head held aloft, watching things play out. I know you probably have a ton of questions. All I can tell you is that thing captured a bunch of us after we died. It's been feeding on us. It's also been trying to force us to have a party. I'm not sure what it thought we could do while, dead. They wanted to have a party? I asked incredulously. Yeah, I don't get it either, man. So, it went from party to party, looking for dead people. Yeah, like I said, I don't get it either, Frank replied. Did it have a horse and coach? Nah, I think that's not his job anymore. We were interrupted when Shaylee cracked her whip. Well, hopefully this one isn't planning on abusing us too. Time for us to go. Sorry for bumming in your house. It was the only place he couldn't find me. I guess I'll go. Be dead now. I watched with a sentimental pang as Frank waved goodbye and stepped inside Shaylee's coach. All of the ghosts stopped to thank me before following him. Tina gave me a hug. You're a good man. Keep being good. My body's buried in the northern part of the park. I was killed by an obsessive stalker. They'll find all the evidence they need in Wesley Benson's trailer. I'll do what I can. Thanks for protecting Abby and I. I really hope you guys work out. You're super cute together." She kissed my cheek before hopping into the coach. Next came Justin. He shook my hand. "Thanks, man. I honestly don't know who killed me. I was attending a get-together with friends. It grew into a party. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be on a business trip. I didn't want my wife to know I was a screw-up, but I never meant to leave her alone. They'll find me at the bottom of the lake. I'll see what I can do. I'm sorry you died." One after another. They thanked me and stepped aboard. How they all fit in there is a mystery. I'll just assume it's a magic coach. When they were gone, I looked around for any sign of Jerkface. His body had vanished. I did, however, see his head. It lay there on the ground, staring up at me. The crack of a whip made me jump out of my skin. When I looked at Jerkface again, his remaining eye was gone. I looked up at Shaylee, who still had a mischievous, demonic grin on her face. She spoke one more name, Crom Dub the Fourth. "Your time has come." Once the name was spoken, she casually put her head back on her neck, and soon a relatively normal woman stood in place of the insidious being. She hopped off her coach and grabbed up the jerk's head by his stringy hair before tossing it unceremoniously into her coach. Then she turned and stared at me. The clouds finally parted, and we got just enough moonlight to illuminate us. Even in her human form, I found myself terrified of her. Will they be safe?" I asked. She answered with a shrug. "Is it over?" Abby called. "Mostly. But we have to pay," I replied. Abby and Tiffany arrived on either side of me. Abby handed Shaylee a pad of paper and a pen. "What do we owe you?" I asked. The grin she gave us was downright sinister. She took the pad and paper and wrote something precious to you. "I'm not giving you my girlfriend," I said. I honestly don't know if I was kidding around or not. She wouldn't take Abby, would she? Just to build on my anxiety, she put on an exaggerated, pouty face. At least I hope it was exaggerated. She then scribbled, "Not like that. Getting beat up made me cranky. I'm really glad I didn't let it get the best of me." I had a thought. I ran inside. It took a good 5 minutes to actually talk myself into it. When I came back outside, Tiffany raised an eyebrow at me, but Abby seemed to understand. "Shaylee, this is Godzilla." I held up my cheap old toy. "He's been with me since grade school. When I was little, he saw many battles, and he always came out on top. But sometimes he needed help from my stuffed dog. He's seen me laugh. He's seen me cry. He saw me when my family fought. He saw me when my family was at their happiest. I'll never forget him. He's precious to me. But you saved our lives. Is this what you meant?" Shaylee had cocked her head, listening to me introduce my cherished old friend. When I finished, she reached out to take him. I admit I was slow to hand him over. She held the beat-up, faded old thing in her hands and closed her eyes. After a few seconds, a smile formed on her face. I recognized it. That was the same way I used to smile at him. She opened her eyes then and wrapped Godzilla in her arms in an affectionate hug, just like I used to. She almost appeared to be laughing. She took him and set him on top of her carriage alongside the driver's seat before turning back to us. She handed Abby the notepad back and curtsied before climbing onto her carriage. "Payment accepted, then?" Tiffany asked. "I think so. I'm going to try and take a picture, at least of the carriage." The second the words left Tiffany's mouth, a sudden splash of something warm and gooey hit her square in the upper body, splattering droplets all over us. Shaylee, bucket in hand, wagged her finger at us. Then she sat down, grabbed up her reins, and rode away. As soon as she was out of sight, power to the neighborhood returned. That's when we realized the bucket of fluid Shaylee had thrown at us had been frickin' blood. Tiffany wasn't thrilled. As far as spooky things go, that was it. It was over. Tiffany used my shower while Abby and I just sat together. According to her, she and Tiffany hadn't seen any dead people. They'd seen little lights that Tiffany called orbs come spilling down the hallway and straight through the front door. All I could do was marvel at how much space my living room seems to have now that there aren't 3 adult corpses sprawled across it. The bloodstains are gone too. Police were all over the place the next day. Shaylee's battle with Jerkface caused all sorts of damage all over the neighborhood. Nobody found blood. Lucky for us, I told the cops. I thought I heard my plants being broken, but I didn't see who did it. I had to lie about my head wound too. I think they bought it. They'll likely have more questions at some point. There's a lot of speculation. Some people think they saw hooligans running around. Some say there was a horse. Many heard something like the crack of a whip. Oddly enough, nobody reported a thunderous voice calling out the names of dead people. The official police statement has been that it was likely a group of teenage vandals. Thankfully, insurance is taking good care of me and everyone else in the neighborhood. My windows got fixed, and I got a generous bit of cash to replace any damaged goods. Abby asked me how I felt about her moving in when her lease is up. So fewest. Sadly for Tiffany, none of her recording devices picked up anything useful. The best she got was a sound clip of the whip cracking. Anytime either of the beings was there, the image just glitched. She says she isn't mad, though. Seeing it for herself was all she needed. I think we'll have her over for dinner sometime. Like I said at the beginning, spare a thought for Shaylee the Dullahan. I think she followed Jerkface all the way from Europe. She saved a couple of random humans, and the only thing she asked for in return was a cheap memento to make her feel a little less lonely. I'm Jack, and I guess I see dead people, and occasionally the ones that collect dead people. I have to just live with that. I'm left with a lot of uncertainty and the dread that comes with wondering what else is out there now. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to keep ignoring the fact that the hospital I work near now has a bunch of silent residents that spend the whole day just staring at me.